Well, good evening. I'm Temecula Mayor Mary Ann Edwards, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Temecula City Council to order. Our invocation this evening is by Senior Pastor Ryan Wrench of Calvary Baptist Church, and I will be leading the flag salute after that. So if we can stand for the invocation and remain standing for the flag salute.
Our great God, I thank you for this time together this afternoon. And dear Lord, I pray as we gather together, I don't know many or any of them personally, but I pray that as our great city is led and helped by those who are doing their best to move us along in the right direction and toward the right purpose, I pray that you are the one that's continuing to guide and help them as well. And I just pray for, like the Bible says, for kings and for all that are in authority, that we can leave and have wonderful lives, quiet and peaceable lives, so we can live in godliness and honesty. And I pray on the federal level and on the state level, but especially tonight on the local level for these leaders here assembled tonight, that you would give wisdom and insight that only you can give. And we're thankful for them, thankful for their service, thankful for the time that they spend on even the administrative side of things like meetings like this. And I pray, God, that you'll bless through this time and bless our city through their efforts. We thank you for what you're doing through them. And we pray tonight in Christ's name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Would you please put your right hand over your heart and repeat after me? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and you may be seated. Okay, Madam City Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Councilmember Alexander,
I'm here.
Councilmember Ron,
Here.
Councilmember Schwank,
I'm here.
Councilmember Stewart,
Here.
and Mayor Edwards.
I am here. So we're moving on to presentations. We have a couple of presentations and proclamations this evening. So the first one is going to be for Pride Month for Temecula Valley and Great Oak High School students, and we have some here. And Miss Andrea's here. So Brandy, you have the proclamation. Would you like to go ahead and read it, please?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor. I would love to read it. And tonight we have joining with us from Great Oak High School, Faculty Advisor Aaron Andrade, and representing the Gay Straight Alliance, Great Oak High School student Isabella Collins. And from Temecula Valley High School, we have Faculty Advisor Kara Ramsey. And from the Pride Intersectional Group, we have Temecula Valley High School student Sadako Warmbier. And so the proclamation reads, whereas Pride Month commemorates the June 1969 uprising at Stonewall in New York City, where members of the LGBTQ+ community and allies rose to fight discriminatory laws that have been since declared unconstitutional. And whereas the month of Pride is celebrated through various recognitions and activities in support of the LGBTQ+ community, locally, statewide, nationally, and internationally. And whereas LGBTQ+ individuals, families, and supporters are an integral part of the fabric of the community and contribute to its overall economy and quality of life. And whereas LGBTQ+ members are represented in the public and private sector as professionals, business owners, educators, students, volunteers, veterans, and many more. And whereas Temecula appreciates the value and dignity of each person and acknowledges the important contributions of the LGBTQ+ community to promote principles of equality, acceptance, and love. And whereas these contributions include those of the LGBTQ+ youth of the community and their allies, including Great Oak High School Gay Straight Alliance and Temecula Valley High School Pride Intersectional Group. And whereas it is imperative that young people in our community feel valued, safe, empowered, and supported by their peers and community leaders, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, or other expression. And whereas all are welcome in the city of Temecula to live, work, and play and every individual and family of any diversity deserves a safe and happy home supported by friends and neighbors. And now, therefore, Madam Mayor, you, on behalf of the City Council of the City of Temecula, hereby proclaim the month of June 2021 Pride Month in recognition and support of the LGBTQ+ individuals and families in our own community. And as I indicated, we do have Mrs. Andrade, Isabella, Mrs. Ramsey, and Sadako here joining us. And I know both of the students have some words.
All right, so which of the students wants to go first?
So I'll just, based off of my list, alphabetical order, we'll have Great Oak go first.
All right.
And then, so Mrs. Andrade and Isabella.
Good evening. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. So I'd just like to introduce Isabella Collins. She is our future GSA president for next year. She's a wonderful young woman. So I know she'll represent Great Oak well. Go ahead, Isabella.
Thank you. So hi, I'm Isabella, and as Ms. Andrade said, I'm the next year's president of the GSA at our school. And so this year I've worked alongside our current president, April Tamalunas, and our current secretary, Marita Sampson. And together, our goal as a club is to create a safe space for LGBTQIA individuals and a learning environment for them and our allies. So during the club, we would weekly make a slideshow presentation, usually going over some sort of LGBT topic like identities and sexualities, and going in depth into what they mean and to educate them for everyone. During club meetings, we would also go over news happening around to keep on track of our modern situations. So going over things happening that harm our community and are also a step forward for us. In our club, I am thankful to say that we have created a very nice community among ourselves and have grown closer and really helped each other out during tougher times with exploring identities and just the pandemic in general. I think that we created a very safe environment, and so I'm thankful to say that we have successfully done what our mission was.
Well, thank you, Isabella. That's wonderful. And I know that during COVID, it was very difficult for teens being so isolated. So I'm sure that you provided much comfort and camaraderie amongst your club members. So thank you and congratulations. Mrs. Andrade, thank you. It's nice to see you again. And so from Temecula Valley High School, go Bears. I'm sorry, I have to say it.
Hi, this is Kara Ramsey, and I'm just going to introduce Sadako and say thank you to the City of Temecula for this proclamation and this opportunity.
Hi, Sadako. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you guys?
We're great.
Yay. Okay, so hi, everyone. My name is Sadako. I'm 16. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm proud and honored to represent Temecula Valley High School's intersectional pride, as well as all the LGBTQ youth in Temecula who are celebrating Pride. And thank you, City of Temecula, for extending this proclamation of support to us. A supportive community is critical, especially supportive adults that our peers look to as role models. A proclamation such as this helps Temecula to be a safer and more supportive town for all of our children. We need supportive adults in order to grow into healthy and happy citizens who give back to our communities. TVHS's Intersectional Pride Club creates a safe space for LGBTQ teenagers. This is our top goal as a club, to maintain safe spaces and create more safe spaces at the high school and hopefully the middle schools. As a queer teenager, I need and my peer needs safe spaces. They are vital for us to feel accepted, supported, and free to be ourselves without fear. If I had a GSA when I was in middle school, it would have helped me grow more confident and proud of who I was earlier. All children need to feel heard and loved and supported to grow into healthy adults. And we're no different. Middle and high school clubs and this proclamation of public support communicate that to our peers and teachers and our city to value and support us. When we feel heard, loved, and supported, we're better daughters, sons, students, and citizens. The second goal of our club that I'd like to emphasize is to work with teachers and administration to continue implementing Bill 48, the California law which compels the inclusion of political, economic, and social contributions of persons with disabilities disabilities, and LGBTQ people into educational textbooks and social studies curricula in California public schools. The Fair Education Act requires LGBTQ representation in our textbooks, in class lectures, and assignments. This representation tells us that we can be great scientists, authors, politicians, and poets. I'll leave you with our third most important goal: to increase education and resources available to all teens, but specifically LGBTQ teens. Providing education and resources that is safe for LGBTQ to learn and access is critical to reduce unsafe sex and substance abuse. It would also give allies and cishet people a chance to educate themselves rather than putting the burden onto us to do it for them. I don't want to educate others, but being non-binary is not a choice for me. Providing balance and unbiased education to all teens increases awareness, understanding, and as a result, reduces ignorance and stigma and increases our pride in ourselves and our community. And thank you for thank you for seeing, oh my goodness.
That's okay, you're doing fine.
Seeing you all tonight, seeing your faces, knowing that you're here to listen, to help us celebrate who we are is a relief. It feels as though I can set aside all the hate and judgment of the world and relax. I'm proud of my community and myself. Thank you all for this opportunity to speak. I'm honored and most important, so proud. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I bet you were especially busy over, during the COVID too, just maintaining contact and trying to hold everyone together and support each other. And thank you for doing that. So, Madam City Clerk, do we have 2 proclamations?
Yes, so Mrs. Ramsey, Mrs. Andrade, Sadako, and Isabella, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we will be sending you via mail separately the inaugural Pride presentation to both of your guys' student clubs. So again, thank you for joining us tonight.
I'm glad it's not Monday, Wednesday, Friday at TV and Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday at Great Oak High School.
No. We have a duplicate, exact same proclamation being sent to both.
Wonderful. Good night.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, everyone. Have a great month.
Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, I do want to indicate that we did have a loss of connection with audio for a second there. And I just want to announce to the public that it is back up. We've been getting some calls on that. So it did briefly go out, but it is back up.
Okay, that's good to hear. And our next presentation is for Make Music Temecula Day, something that's near and dear to my heart. And here is Joanna Pearl and Gary Johnson.
Yes.
Hi, Joanna. Hi, Gary. I could sing it to you, but you have to unmute or we can't hear the music.
Madam Mayor.
There we go.
Hi. Thank you guys so much. I'm so sorry we didn't have the link. We appreciate being here. But Miss Mayor, I know your background in Disney, so.
Yes.
Go ahead and sing. No, just kidding.
Guilty as charged.
No, we want to thank you guys so much for the recognition of Make Music Temecula. This is going to be our second annual, but our first official. So very excited.
Thank you.
Give us a little sneak peek, will you?
Well, Make Music Temecula is part of a global making music outreach program that started in France in 1982 as Fête de la Musique by a couple of brothers, I think it was, who just wanted to encourage other people to make music. In that time, in the last sort of 40 years or so, music has actually been cut from most school programs.
Yeah.
Even though music and obviously television and things like that have got us through this last 18 months. There's actually more music being consumed than ever before. However, people don't buy records anymore. It's very hard for musicians to actually get remunerated.
Yes.
And so what we're trying to do is bring the concept of making music to people who've never had that opportunity before. We work with NAM, the National Association of Music Merchants.
Yep.
We're part of their establishment, and they even provide us with free instruments and things from time to time. We are a 501c3, so we do look, in future years, we'll be looking for larger sponsors for larger events. It's just not worth it right now while we're in the midst of a global pandemic. But we will have an event on June the 21st. It's actually June 21st every year.
Every year, yeah.
So
Okay.
it's always the kind of equinox or the longest day. And around the world, and in, even Riverside has one, has a chapter. San Diego has a chapter.
Long Beach. Yeah.
We just joined in, like I said, 2 years ago. And so we will have a series of live performances that will be streamable on our site, which is makemusicday.org/Temecula. And if you just Google makemusicday.org, you'll end up finding us, because we're part of a larger thing, and every single city on the planet has their own logo, and it's easy.
Oh, well, we're mostly and only interested in Temecula, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Madam City Clerk, are you going to sing the proclamation for us?
Ooh,
Madam Mayor, I am not going to sing.
come on, give it a go. Everyone can do
I am
music.
more than happy to have her read the proclamation. And Joanna and Gabe, we're so glad that you were able to join us tonight.
Thank you guys so much.
The proclamation reads, whereas Make Music Temecula, presented locally by Make Music Temecula organization, is an annual one-day festival on the first day of summer that celebrates the ability of everyone to make music. And whereas Make Music Temecula is a day of music making in public spaces throughout Temecula for musicians and audiences alike. And whereas Make Music Day, a subsidiary of the National Association of Music and Merchants, NAM, is a free celebration of music around the world. And whereas Make Music Temecula will take place on June 21st, 2021, inspired by France's national music holiday, Fête de la Musique, that began in 1982 and is now an international phenomenon that takes place on the summer solstice in more than 1,000 cities and 120 countries. And whereas Make Music Temecula joins the national group of Make Music cities, including New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, and Philadelphia. And whereas this celebration is not only important to the Make Music effort, but now more than ever, music has been helping communities come together, even if only online. And whereas Make Music Temecula involves hundreds of musicians, bands, and ensembles from a diverse array of styles and genres, including classical, jazz, blues, folk, pop, rock, and world music. And whereas on June 21st, 2021, Make Music Temecula will celebrate its second annual event as people of all ages, musical genres, and abilities, from students and amateurs to professionals and marquee artists, gather throughout the day in Temecula to engage in music making. Now therefore, you, Madam Mayor, on behalf of the City Council and the City of Temecula, hereby proclaim June 21st, 2021 to be Make Music Temecula Day, and encourage all Music Temecula to celebrate the joy of making music.
Thank
Oh
you,
my gosh.
Cindy.
Thank you very much.
Anybody
Makes me so
can make
happy.
music, anybody can make music.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And then it brings us all together. And I can't wait to see everyone in Temecula playing instruments and coming together and, coming together as one. So
So we're going to search for Make Temecula Day Make Music Day Temecula, and
Correct.
we'll probably get more hits than New York.
let's do it.
Of course.
Let's do it, guys.
Hey, thank
Thank
you
you.
for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye. Okay, we're going to change things up just a little bit right now, because we have some very special guests here with us.
Oh, they're gonna.
We have members of the Pachanga tribe here, including Chairman Mark Caro and Councilman Butch Murphy and Jacob Mejia, who is the man of that town, and always, he's my phone call if I need to call Pachanga. So, and then a point of order, Peter, would you like to make an announcement about Councilmember Ron? Oh, hi, Councilwoman. I didn't see you. How are you? Okay, go ahead, Peter.
Yes, Councilmember Ron will not participate in this matter because his wife is an employee of the tribe. So he will turn off his camera and turn off his mic to comply with the FPPC regulations.
Okay, so Councilman Catalina's here. And I'm trying to see if there's anyone else that I've missed. I don't think so. So Chairman McCarroll or Mr. Murphy, if you know of anyone that I have missed, please introduce them for us. We want to make sure that we introduce everyone. So Chairman McCarroll, thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
So are we going to have, are we going to have a,
Madam Mayor,
Greg.
I'll do a quick introduction here and then I'll turn it over to Chairman Maccaro, who'd like to say a few words as well. But
Thank you.
Again, welcome to our friends from Pechanga. Thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day today to join us. Rightly so, on behalf of the Pechanga representatives this evening, I'm sure they appreciate the flexibility that you've granted by considering this item at the beginning of the meeting. I know we have a fairly robust agenda tonight, which includes consideration of our annual budget and some other council business discussion items that may make for a long evening.
I thought they might like to hear the budget, but perhaps not.
I wanted to provide just a little history on the government-to-government relationship the city and the Pechanga tribe have developed over the years. Since the Pechanga Resort and Casino opened in 2002, the tribe has partnered with the city in various ways to invest over $25.6 million into city street improvements and public safety services. Tribal gaming compacts with the state of California require tribes to mitigate local impacts resulting from gaming operations. During the planning phase for the Pechanga Resort expansion, the compact in place at that time required the tribe and the city to enter into negotiations to establish an intergovernmental agreement, or IGA, which spelled out the mitigation measures intended to offset the impacts of the resort expansion. That included funding the recently completed widening of Pechanga Parkway, as well as their fair share contributions towards other infrastructure improvements. The tribe also annually contributes funds to cover the cost of an additional sheriff's deputy. The item that we're considering this evening is a voluntary IGA. Provisions in the current gaming compact, which took effect in August of 2016, promote tribal investments that provide mutual benefit in our shared community. We understand Pechanga now has the ability to offset or seek credits against any payment due the state of California for the privilege to host gaming activities on the Pechanga Reservation by investing in mutually beneficial local projects and activities. I'm pleased to report that we're now in a position to recommend the City Council ratify an agreement which was actually negotiated just prior to the onset of the shutdowns associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. As we begin to reopen our tourism economy, Pechanga tribal leadership is now once again comfortable entering into this long-term agreement to partner with the city on investing locally. Chairman Maccaro will provide some insights on the first projects to be funded through the voluntary IGA. Per the terms of the agreement, city and tribal representatives will meet annually, if not more often, to strengthen that government-to-government relationship and explore additional opportunities for tribal investment. I believe, Madam Mayor, you've mentioned everybody that's been in attendance or that is virtually with us this evening, so I will turn it over to Chairman Maccaro for a few words.
Thank you, Chairman Maccaro.
Here we go. Is my audio on?
Yes, you sound
Okay.
fine.
Thank you. Yes, with me tonight, I have Councilwoman Catalina Chacon and Councilman Butch Murphy, and then Jacob Mejia from our staff. So I'll start with me, Yuyam. Palovo Hamkai. Good evening and hello, everybody. You know, this month marks a notable anniversary for us in June, being June, I will say. It was June 27th, 1882, when President Chester Arthur established the Pechanga Indian Reservation. So 139 years ago. Temecula has always been our home, the valley in particular. For our people, it was bittersweet in that it represented finally the settling of a homeland for us. It represented finally having a legal entitlement to these lands, which have always been our home. So on the other hand, it's also meant that not having paper title to a lot of other land that still remains our home. And we do regard other parts of the valley just in that way. So since the formation of the city in 1989, our two governments have made notable progress and continued progress on a government-to-government basis. Here's a few examples of that past history. I think the first project up certainly was the replacement of the narrow two-lane 1928 Paula Road Bridge.
Yes.
Hopefully everybody remembers that skinny little thing. It was okay when everything was country, as you cross that. But once 1,000 homes went in and everything else, it got a little nuts. But anyway, the bridge was replaced, and it couldn't have been done without the coordination of the city. And so that was a big deal. And then came the widening of Pechanga Parkway, and then the new I-15 Temecula Parkway interchange, and of course, our common fight to protect Puesca Mountain. So all these things come to mind and are part of our joint history together. So we're pleased to build upon that cooperation to future strengthen our government to government relationship. Now, this proposed voluntary intergovernmental agreement, or IGA, between our tribe and the city is in particular not a requirement under the compact or any other law. Rather, it is a reflection of our desire to further the ties between our two governments for the mutual benefit of our communities. This agreement outlines a number of shared principles and provides for tribal investments in local infrastructure and public safety. Notably, the tribe will provide grants of $5 million to the city for the addition of an auxiliary lane on I-15 between Temecula Parkway and Rancho California Road, and for enhanced landscaping improvements to the new interchange at Temecula Parkway. We will also be providing an annual contribution of $850,000 for public safety services or other mutually agreed upon projects. So on behalf of the tribe, I want to close by thanking you and your city staff for their professionalism and responsiveness in working through the issues memorialized in the IGA, in the agreement. The city has a great team. Aaron Adams and Greg Butler in particular were very helpful. We look forward to coming out of this pandemic and to continuing our mutual cooperation on a government-to-government basis. And let me just add that being a weekend warrior musician, that the previous presentation, I think is actually a really big deal. And I was pleased to see that because music is a big driver to our valley, to the business in the valley, and everything that we do in terms of quality of life and the things that bring people here. Certainly, when you look at venues in wine country, you look at our venue with the soon to be coming up again concert series being reestablished, and various musical activities in Old Town. It brings people. People love it, and it's part of the air and the atmosphere. So I was really pleased to see that on a personal note. But at any rate, thank you for the time on your busy agenda this evening. And again, on behalf of the Pechanga people and the Pechanga Band of Luiseño Indians, love. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And we have certainly appreciated the long and wonderful relationship that we have with the tribe. Your generosity in this particular instance is incredible. And again, I think it was the fight to save Puesca Mountain that really just cemented that relationship forever. And we owe you everything for saving that site for the benefit of tribe and the city.
Yeah, when you breathe in that clean, fresh, ocean tinged air, remember that right there.
Yeah, and that's everything. So we also have with us Councilwoman Catalina Chacon. How are you? Are you in the car?
I am doing great. Yes, I am in the car. Apologies. I was hoping to get home before I got on.
No problem.
Thank you to everybody at the city, and we appreciate our working relationship. And you're right. I mean, I recall the day that we saved Puesca Mountain, and that day will just live with me forever. But I love the relationship we have with the city and look forward to working together in the future.
Oh, thank you. I don't get to see you as much, as we used to. So we're going to have to set a date, I think, to go to lunch. So, all right, drive safely. And Councilman Butch Murphy, how are you?
I'm doing well. Looking at the screen and seeing a lot of old friendly faces. Stu, you've been around forever. Council forever, but you've been around the valley for a long, long time. And Marianne and Aaron and Peter, Greg, now we're old time friends, I guess, too.
Long time friends. It's long time.
It leads me to think about all of the things that we've been able to accomplish from back in the days of the mid 90s to today. We've come a long ways, and I think that we've landed in a very, very good spot, a very positive spot, and have developed a wonderful working relationship, and look forward to doing that through the kinds of things that we're talking about here tonight, the IGA, for many, many years to come. Thank you guys for everything that you do.
Well, thank you. I'd like to share with you that I was at an event last weekend. I did the Great Oak High School graduation for Nelson High School and for Rancho Vista High School. And someone came up to me afterwards, and I thought he was just going to come up and shake my hand, and he shook my hand and he said, "Tell me, when's the buffet going to open at Pechanga?" And I said, as soon as they can get it open, as soon as possible. So you have people waiting for everything to open. So thank you again for your generosity. So Randy, I don't want this visit to end because we never get to see each other anymore. So I just want to say one more thing. When you think of just the things that Chairman McCarl named toward the end of his comments, with the improvements to landscaping, 79 South Interchange, the extra widening of the freeway. I mean, it just goes on. And that is a tremendous contribution to the city. And thankfully, it will also benefit the tribe because we share this space together. And as I always say, Pechanga's been here for 10,000 years or more, and we've been here for 32. Have a little patience with us. So thank you for everything you do. And we want to keep this relationship going and close. So thank you all very much.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we do need a motion to go ahead and approve the item.
Right, I'm waiting for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'll move item number 12.
Okay, motion and a second. Whoever's on mute for my second needs to push their button.
Okay.
They may be having some audio difficulties in the chamber, and so
I think I do see Councilmember Alexander who.
Okay, she's got her fingers up. All right.
The second.
All right, so Jessica, a motion and a second. So Madam City Clerk, could you please read the roll call?
Yes, Councilmember Ron will be noted as abstention.
Yep.
Councilmember Alexander. Okay. Okay, and Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart. Okay, and Councilmember Schwenk.
Aye.
All right.
For the record, we are having a little bit of audio problems, but I did visually see the approval from both Councilmember Alexander and Councilmember Schwenk.
So it's 4 with Councilmember or Madam Mayor Pro Tem Ron abstaining. And thank you all again. You know, it's wonderful to see you, and we look forward soon to the time when we can, you know, be on site at Pechanga once again.
In person, yes.
Yes, in person. So thank you.
Madam Mayor, the IT folks have alerted me that they will need to do a quick restart of some software to bring this audio back up in the chambers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, hi, Jacob. Thank you.
So, Madam Mayor, the next thing we have are the board and commission reports.
Okay, so do we want to go ahead and plow ahead even with the restart?
Yes, let's try it.
Okay.
Because they are able to hear the presentations and the board and commission reports.
Okay.
And if we need to stop, we will do so.
All right, then just let me know. So we're on to board and commission reports, and I have Planning Commission first. And I'm looking at my board to see who is here.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, I just got notified. It looks like we need a 5-minute recess.
All right.
So that they can go ahead and take care of the.
All right. We apologize to the viewing public, but we will be right back. We want to be able to hear everyone. Thank you. So let's take a 5-minute recess.
Okay, Madam Mayor, we do have all 5 council members present again.
All right. I just like to thank the IS department. You know, all of the streaming and the Zoom meetings that we've had, Council Live, and this is not easy to broadcast over Channel 3 and do Zoom at the same time. You know, you guys have done a great job. So I think this was our first major glitch, and you've taken care of that fairly quickly. So thank you very much. We appreciate your hard work. Now we can move on to board and commission reports. And I saw Commissioner Telesio. And how are you, neighbor? You going to report for the Planning Commission?
Right, we're here to report several things. One, let you know that the Roy Paul Ranch Specific Plan is alive and well and growing. We had 6 items on the June 2nd Planning Commission meeting, and all 6 of them were having to do with the plan for the Roy Paul Specific Plan. The commission approved home product reviews for planning area 19, 20B, and 21 of the Roy Park Ranch Specific Plan to allow for unique detached single family plans with 4 architectural styles on a total of 47 lots. There were no public comments for these 3 items, and the commission voted 4-0 to approve the application. Commission also approved a development plan and track map for planning area 28 and 29 of the Roy Ranch Plan to allow for 374 unit multifamily community consisting of townhomes, lower court duplexes and bungalows, 3 packs on 31.49 acres. The growth, traffic, and quality of life was pertinent and questioned and talked about for some time on that one, just because of the newness of the commission. Commission voted 4-0 to approve the application. The commission approved a home product review for planning area 17A of the Roy Ranch Specific Plan to allow for 5 unique detached single family plans with 5 architectural styles on 115 lots. There were no public comments for this item, and the commission voted 4-0 to approve the application. Lastly, the commission approved a home product review for planning area 18A of the Roy Paul Ranch Specific Plan to allow for 3 unique detached single family plans with 4 architectural styles on 74 lots. There were no public comments for the item, and this commission voted 4-0 to approve the application. One little test at the end of this program was the little game that Mr. Robert, I guess it was Sesame Street, used to play about one of these things does not belong here.
Yes, yes.
Look at those housing pictures and tell me which one of those doesn't belong here, but really does belong here.
I do not know. And I looked at all of the architectural styles as they went by.
They're single family, 1-story homes.
Yes.
They're there and they're not often there. So when we put that up, we want people to notice it, especially the developers. There's a market out there for those homes and people are looking for them.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if the price point's probably better. And we know that we attract seniors to Temecula too. So that's a perfect size for that, and small new young families.
And that's all I have.
Well, thank you, Mr. Telesio. It was nice to hear from you, and thank you for the Planning Commission report. We also have our Public Traffic Safety Commission report this evening. Hi, Bob Hagel, how are you?
Good, I'm doing great. Good evening, all council members and all the staff and our residents and guests. And I will say I am looking forward to getting into City Hall and getting to meet everybody and saying hi to everybody again. It's been a long, long time. So we had a very busy meeting, and we started with, let's see, Jonathan, are you, can you put up slides? We started with the Quality of Life Master Plan that Luke presented. And I will say that we had lots of questions and gave our input and got all of our questions answered by Luke, which was great. We're great to see that we're where we are in that master plan and the next couple of years of work that will be done. I think it's something very important to set the kind of the standards for everything else that we do, and everything else that we make judgments on is based upon that. Next was the Capital Improvement Program, which is a very, very big and hefty budget for coming up, particularly for roads. So anybody who has concerns about roads, we are working at them as fast as we can. And we've increased the amount of work we're doing on the roads. And we're thrilled to see some of even the big projects move forward, probably a lot sooner, maybe several years sooner than what was originally expected. So I think that's really great. The last item on the agenda was Deep Portola Road. And Deep Portola Road from Butterfield east to the city, or to the city-county line, which ends at Butterfield Park. That road is going to be repaved, and there was issues with speeding on the road. Staff had a meeting with the two neighborhoods that were there via a Zoom meeting, and what was presented to them was a road diet, a fairly complex redesign of all the striping on that road. Deep Portola there is a major arterial that is acting as a residential collector street. It has various widths, and when the county someday breaks through and has, a road on the other side with neighborhoods and everything, that road will have some more changes made to it physically to widen the road in certain spots and make it more consistent. There is two roads that go into the neighborhoods via Sabino and via Angeles, and they're both shallow roads, meaning that they're 44 feet wide. They're very wide roads, but they're shallows so that they share traffic with bicycles as well. The roads cross over a horse and walking trail that is on the side of Deep Portola, and then crosses over a sidewalk, to just give you some background there. What was recommended besides the restriping and road diet was to put in always stops at both Sabino and Via Angeles. And after a very thorough and long discussion, the commission came to the conclusion that we would prefer to start with the road diet plan, the restriping, and see what that does with reducing speeds. Most of the traffic that comes out of there, which is not, they're both well under 500 cars a day, is people going to and from the park, people going to and from Temecula Parkway, and our guess was probably people going to and from Great Oak High School as well. But to try the restriping plan, see what that does. If needed, we would then go to the next step, which would be to then consider stop signs, always stop signs at both or one of the roads. So this will not go to City Council at this point. We will try the striping. If that doesn't work and we end up putting in a temporary stop sign, which we're a little hesitant doing because no stop signs ever seem to be temporary.
Right.
So then it would then go before City Council for your vote. And that concludes our meeting.
Oh, thank you, Bob. So we always like to have visual friction, and those are the traffic calming measures that we use. Visual friction, which is a way to narrow the road by appearance only, and that does have a tendency to slow down the traffic. So keep us posted and let us know how that goes.
Yeah, there'll be bike lanes on both sides and turning lanes and everything. So the striping plan is a really, really great striping plan. And our experience has been that the road diets really do work.
Yeah,
it gives people a calming feeling and they slow down. And if that works, why put up stop signs and get more people upset and more people stopping for no reason? So
yeah, exactly. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So next we're going to have, our public safety report. So I'm going to put on my CAL FIRE mask that was given to me by Chief Crater. So welcome, Chief Crater. Can you still understand me?
Yes, Madam Mayor. How are you this evening?
And thank you very much for the lovely mask. It fits perfectly, and I wear it when I'm out in public. So I'm going to take it off right now, but I wanted to show you.
Thanks for representing. I appreciate it. For the month of May 2021, the fire department in Temecula ran 744 calls, 15 of those being fire related, 558 of those being medical related, and our ring and alarm ordinance is working still. We're still at 3, so we haven't seen an escalation in that. And people are fixing their alarm systems, which helps us out immensely and reduces wear and tear and those night wake ups, so our firefighters get some rest if possible during the night. So we appreciate that ordinance, and it is working successfully to date.
And it used to be hundreds and hundreds of false alarms.
We used to have quite a few. I wouldn't, yeah, it was quite a few. It was hundreds per year.
Yeah,
Monthly,
right.
it was into, 15, 20, sometimes up to 30 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So that has reduced that call load, and actually our businesses are safer because of it, because they have properly working alarm systems. So
Great.
we do appreciate the cooperation with fixing this issue, which leads me into fire prevention stats for the month of May. You will see April there, but these are May stats. That was a typo. I apologize. Next slide, please. All right, so plan reviews. We had 398 plan reviews, construction inspections, 432, annual inspections, 645. Our over-the-counter public inquiries are at 10. A lot of people are doing things online, but you could see year-to-date is 22. So we've doubled our number in the last month. Some people do have questions and they do need to see us in person, and we understand that. And we appreciate them coming in to discuss those with our Fire Prevention Bureau in the city of Temecula. And one more slide, please. It is 4th of July. With the upcoming holiday, we please ask the residents and just remind them in Riverside County, fireworks are illegal. And even the most innocent firework, a sparkler, is 1/4 of the emergency room visits and injuries in the county. We remind everybody that this year we will be stepping up enforcement. We do have a system in place where there are fines involved now, including up to $5,000 per citation. This is a county ordinance, and since the city of Temecula does contract with the county, it applies in the city limits. Also, many fires are started by illegal fireworks. So please, any fireworks, please leave them to the professionals. Most of the aerial fireworks in Riverside County start house fires, vegetation fires. And last year we seen 300 to 500 calls in about 4 hours to our emergency command center for a firework related incident. So this year, please let's improve that. We're asking for the community to cooperate with us, and any questions you might have, you can look on rbcfire.org at our PO website for information on firework safety. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chief, very much. Okay, so we are moving on to public comments, and I know we have public comments, so I'm going to go ahead and read the disclaimer. A total of 30 minutes is provided for members of the public to address the City Council on items that appeared on the consent calendar or a matter not listed on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. For all public hearing or business items on the agenda, each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. For this meeting, public comments may be submitted and read into the record pursuant to the important notice provided at the top of this agenda. All right, Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do believe we'll be able to get through the 30 minutes with the 15 to 18 public comments I have. So I'll go ahead and start reading those now. The first comment is from Jason Lund. Mayor Edwards, we the people are requesting a full and complete audit of the $14 million of emergency funding received in lieu of opening up the city to avoid mass financial and human catastrophe as we have witnessed. This money was taken and immediately spent on programs and processes, vendors and employees, including your salary and that of every Temecula City Council member's salary, along with the city manager and his wife, who by virtue of her position running a nonprofit organization may have a conflict of interest due to the source of the funds used to so highly compensate her. We desire the light of day be shown on the books and that a forensic audit may be made of the funds usage, and more specifically to be fully informed of who actually profited from their being dispersed so quickly and with no appearance of propriety in managing the expenditures. If there is an appearance of inconsistency, there should generally be a desire to root out any risk of the same by using GAAP and other principles, all designed to ensure full and complete adherence to fidelity on a financial basis by our elected officials. This is one of the several reasons you were served with my affidavit recently and for which I await your specific written response. Lawful notification has been provided to you stating that if you do not rebut the statements, charges, and affirmance made in this affidavit declaration, then you tacitly agree with and admit to them. We only want a full and complete, well-ordered, and compliant audit of our money, which you have spent in accordance with our tacit and de facto authorization. That makes you responsible, along with the entire City Council and administrative staff, for those funds to be spent in only the best interest of the public, and we now desire evidence to that effect. None has been provided, and in fact, certain members of this very council are apparently averse to such an attempt at propriety. The next speaker is Helena Mortimer. As a citizen of Temecula, I would like my voice to be heard. Please do not continue the state of emergency policies in Temecula. We have suffered enough. Children as well as adults have suffered enough. Businesses have suffered enough. Our mental health has suffered enough. Please have the courage to stand up against those unreasonable policies. Open Temecula back up and keep it open. No more dictatorial rules. We need our city back. The next speaker is Sylvia Gray. Please vote no to Newsom's power trip. We are so against his tyrant mandates. Thank you. The next speaker is Mark Lane. Recently, in April of this year, I sent an email expressing my concerns surrounding certain actions such as mask wearing in city council meetings and in Temecula in general, alleged ties to the Black Lives Matter movement and the Ready Commission, to name a few. I have not yet received any direct feedback from the council, but what I have received is even more disconcerting. Shortly after the late April City Council meeting, a flyer was floated around a group at City Hall claiming to be a correction of misinformation. Among the corrections was that related to a mask mandate. The statement claimed, and I quote, "Temecula has never had a mask mandate. Only the state of California has a mask mandate. If Temecula does not comply with it, the city could lose $14 million in state aid. No one wants to lose that much state aid." That tells me that what the city council has done is knuckled under the blackmail of the state. Is this what all of this is about? Money? You have sold the citizens and businesses of the city of Temecula to the state for a potential $14 million. This isn't about what is good for the city. It's about fear. Fear of not getting paid. You have sworn to uphold the U.S. Constitution and the California Constitution, but instead you appear to have cowered to the heavy hand of the state. This sounds a bit like communism to me. It is readily apparent that you cannot or are afraid to think for yourselves, and therefore the businesses and citizens of Temecula suffer. No amount of money should put the state before its citizens. Remember, you have been elected to serve the people of Temecula, not the state of California. Please ask them how you can serve them better instead of following the money. Furthermore, I strongly urge you not to continue the so-called state of emergency in the city as the governor has suggested for the state after June 15th. Thank you for your time. The next speaker is Valerie. And I don't have a last name. It's a little lengthy, so I will start the 3-minute timer. I was a resident of Temecula and a business owner with a locale in Temecula for 14 years. I now reside in a neighboring city. Due to COVID, my husband and I had to shut our business in Temecula because we were deemed non-essential. For the past month, I have been following the Zoom council meetings, and some of the comments from council members have been concerning. One is that those citizens who do not reside in Temecula should not be permitted to provide public comment, and that all comments contrary to the council's majority stance do not hold weight because they represent just a few voices within the community. Members Ron and Schwenk repeatedly labeled the comments they don't agree with as negative, divisive, and dangerous. Although I no longer live in Temecula, I drive into Temecula multiple times a week where I spend money. I have a sphere of influence, as we all do, where I recommend and send people to Temecula for business and leisure. Even though I cannot vote and cannot be considered one of your constituents, I can certainly choose to make my money and spend it elsewhere. If I leave, I can guarantee I will take hundreds with me. You see, COVID has forced us, we the people, to question, gather, speak up, lean on each other, and many of us are awakened. Since I am no longer a resident of Temecula, I certainly am a visitor or a neighbor. Do you, Mayor Edwards, and City Council value visitors? Based on the fact that Aaron Adams' wife is making 6 figures to run the Visitors Bureau, I would assume the answer is a resounding yes. If visitors matter, as a visitor, I should feel heard, valued, and respected, and I do not. Another concern is the way Jessica Alexander has been treated for her stance on not wanting to wear a mask and for her Rosa Parks comment, which has reverberated into her being labeled as, no surprise here, a racist. Not one of you has stood up to defend Jessica and show unity as a council. Before you even think it, no white privilege labels placed on me, please. I am brown-skinned and I am married to a Black man who legally fled communist Cuba for a life of freedom, opportunity, and food. My children are biracial and my mother is a Hispanic immigrant. On to inclusion, a goal and a word thrown around a lot by this council. I'm certain Jessica does not feel included, respected, or buoyed up by her own council members. It is very clear that we are living in historical and unprecedented times. Many of us find ourselves on opposite ends of the aisle on various issues with our friends, colleagues, and even families. Please stop making the division greater by labeling public comments that express opposing views. Expect all opinions to be heard. Voice concerns about oaths not being upheld. Implore you to end all forms of lockdown restrictions and unconstitutional mandates as negative, divisive, and dangerous. The sting is even greater when Mayor Edwards publicly announces that the council has been choosing to follow unconstitutional mandates to get COVID-related expenses reimbursed for the benefits of the residents of Temecula, all the while never missing a paycheck themselves and actually receiving pay raises. Were the residents and business owners of Temecula asked what they thought, did I miss the town hall meeting? Then when Marianne was asked on a phone call why the council continued to stay under a state of emergency, her answer was to get the $14 million COVID funding. When asked if the $14 million is guaranteed, she laughed and said no. Gamble much? Madam Mayor, that's 3 minutes. The next speaker is Lisa Skinner. I want to remind you all that Temecula's success depends largely on visitors to the city and the revenues those visitors generate. It is quite offensive to hear members of the council and members of the community question why non-residents of Temecula should have a voice in what goes on in the city. All council members need to publicly acknowledge their support and appreciation for the opinions and concerns of those who financially support Temecula businesses and nonprofits. We want to be able to attend council meetings in person to express our views and concerns and want the opportunity to make eye contact with council members instead of members hiding behind Zoom and keeping your head down, smirking, head shaking, and being outright disrespectful to those who take the time to express their concerns and opinions. Vote no on a continued state of emergency. Marianne Edwards, you have made it clear that the restrictions the council has placed on Temecula have been a choice so that you can get expenses reimbursement that is not guaranteed. You have been rolling the dice in a crapshoot, and the businesses, employees, and children have been the chips you have gambled with. You have the choice to stand up for freedom and allow the residents and visitors of Temecula to make their own choices. There are other cities across California and the nation who have chosen the people over government mandates and dangling carrots of reimbursed funds. Newsom just announced that he is not lifting the state of emergency because he wants to retain the power to suspend laws and issue mandates. You know that the restrictions from the state are not going away. They will keep fluctuating between various levels of restrictive mandates. There is no green tier. As a collective whole, you can make a stance by ending the state of emergency. You can make a stance by choosing people over money when the next round of lockdowns happens. I strongly urge you to keep your oaths of office by upholding the Constitution and all that the Bill of Rights affords us. We the people will keep watching and pushing for our rights to be respected and upheld. Marianne Edwards, you have been served with lawful notification stating that if you do not rebut the statements, charges, and affirmance made in the affidavit declaration, then you tacitly agree with them and admit to them. While you may not take these measures seriously, I can assure you that the citizens who took the time to file those affidavits do. We seek accountability, transparency, and for oaths of office to be upheld. I look forward to having my public records request provided in a timely manner. The next speaker is There's not a name, it's just concerned residents now paying attention. Wow, now that my neighbors and I have started paying more attention by watching our city council and other commission meetings, I almost wish I hadn't because the rose-colored glasses are coming off. Can you please help us understand some things? How is it that an elected member of the council is allowed to be repeatedly attacked for pleading with you about an issue that affects a large portion of residents? Yes, a large amount of people are experiencing not mere discomfort, but real harm from the mask mandate. And this letter is not to address the mandate, but the treatment of people who are brave enough to speak up for those who are suffering, those who are complying, even though it is to their own detriment. And we have the medical reports, prescriptions, and in some cases, photo documentation to prove it, in case anyone is interested. Those comments that are blasting one member in particular are also condemning those with conditions for whom complying is a tremendous hardship, and we deserve to be represented too. How absolutely cruel and ignorant it is to hear others say just wear the mask, etc. They obviously have the luxury of health good enough to do that. So where's the compassion for those who cannot? Oh, I know, it's being buried under the guise of being anti-racist. Well, who really believes that there was any racist intent in her plea? And for those filled with pearl-clutching outrage, did anyone ask what the intent was before demanding a resignation, or should I say cancellation? The most egregious of all was from an appointed member of the Race Commission that no residents that I know of voted to establish. Oh Lord, how she could hardly take such an abomination without saying something. I mean, she's the newly unelected moral compass for Temecula now, heading the Ready Commission that advises City Council along with all of the other commissions on how to make decisions for all residents based on their skin color. And what is to be racist again? It's hard, but I think I recall something to do with treating others differently because of the color of their skin. What an achievement, Temecula. How would you like being crucified for empathizing with or quoting someone you respect who is a different color? Wait, OMG, was that a reference to Christ? Better do away with me too. What's that? It's okay to feel crucified even though no situation could ever compare to the real crucifixion. Let that sink in. I'm not religious. Did you hear me? I'm not religious. And I just made one of the most ultimate religious comparisons, yet no one is going to crucify me for it. It's 2021. Stop the hypocrisy. Temecula deserves better. The next speaker is Sonia Perez. Temecula City Mayor Marianne Edwards, servant of the citizens. You were elected for the people and by the people to serve them well and uphold your oath of office. The City of Temecula organizational chart that can be found in the city website reads as follows. Randy, please display the org chart for the public to view and read the hierarchy of the chart that I have included. The hardworking citizens can plainly and clearly see that we, the people, are at the top of the chart. Yet all the council members who have continued to vote to keep us locked down and muzzled have failed to represent me and thousands of others who do not agree with continuing this sham. So it is clear that all the city council members who are on board with keeping us locked down need to step down. We start with the mayor, who was served by a process server for the people over 10 days ago. The affidavit clearly states that Mayor Marianne has failed to uphold her duties of office and must step down. Furthermore, the lawful notification has been provided to you, Mayor Marianne, stating that if you do not rebut the statements, charges, and averments made in this affidavit declaration, then you tacitly agree with them and admit to them. Your resignation is way overdue, and the people have spoken. Marianne Edwards, you work for us. See the diagram I have included in the public comment and post it in front of your computer so you have a daily reminder of who you serve. And also included along with the comments was the City of Temecula org chart, city organizational chart, citizens of Temecula, city council, city attorney, commission, city manager, city clerk, community development, finance, information technology support services, public works, community services, human resources, police, fire, contract, economic development, and emergency management. It is the same city's organizational chart that can be found on our budget and our website. The next speaker is Chris Skinner. City Council and Mayor Marianne Edwards. Marianne Edwards, you are now officially put on notice to vacate your office as mayor of Temecula immediately. I have put all City Council on notice to vote no for the continued false, unsubstantiated claims, misinformation of sound science, as I have spoken to scientists, virologists, and have read dozens of white papers that the flu known as the man-made China virus has a 99.98% survival rate, and there have been coronaviruses since the 1960s and have been falsely patented by Fauci, which is a direct violation of a moratorium that he illegally broke laws on, and the truth about him is now coming out. This flagrant disregard to society has never been this evil during any other pandemic. What makes this one any different? This false state of emergency, as Newsom does not make laws, cannot circumvent the legislative branch of our government, who makes and passes laws under the California Constitution as an indirect violation of the U.S. Constitution, to vote on and to continue the madness of fraudulent lockdowns to pad your pockets, which has physically and emotionally caused irreparable damage to the American citizens of this city. You are in direct violation of your oath of office. You were legally served by a processor and have failed to respond within 10 days of service. Your failure to respond of an affidavit served to you make it a direct contravention of your oath of office. Lawful notification has been provided to you stating that if you do not rebut the statements, charges, and averments made in this affidavit declaration, then you tacitly agree with and admit to them. Because you have failed to respond, you are an admission of guilt. You have failed to uphold your oath of office and must step down immediately. This has been a sham state of emergency for your own political gain, along with a few of your colleagues. You and the elected servants of Temecula that have voted to stay locked down are trying to collect COVID-19 relief funds, which on record was to be for every citizen of Temecula, of the Temecula residents. To date, none of the residents of Temecula have seen that money. We have you on record stating this over a month ago. We, the people, will take steps to have you legally removed if you fail to step down. We will no longer continue to be controlled under fear or tyranny from city officials who serve us, and most certainly not your agenda. The city of Temecula building belongs to the taxpayers and your constituents, not you, the city council, or any employee in that building as well. We are done with the lies and deceit from you and 4 other city council members, as well as your city manager, Aaron Adams. Your snide comments, disrespect by looking down, smirking and shaking your head during public comments, hiding behind a Zoom camera will no longer be tolerated. Open the doors of City Hall to the public. Your time is up. Step down immediately. The next speaker is Suzanne Hines. Please do not vote to continue with the governor's never-ending emergency orders. It is time to get our lives back. The next speaker is Suzanne Lane. I would imagine it has not been much fun to read through all of these public comments every week for the past 15 months. I do not enjoy having to point out so much negativity. I am praying for clarity, common sense, and courage for each and every one of you. Please do not vote to continue with the state of emergency. It's a fraud. The people of Temecula and the many visitors deserve to live their lives in peace and freedom, breathing oxygen freely, socializing freely, earning a living freely. The governor is a tyrant and he is completely out of line, but Temecula can choose to do what is right. End this ridiculous emergency. We are Americans and we will not stop standing for what is right. Woke culture is oppressive, divisive, and actually perpetuates bullying and racism, specifically against those that are white, and it seeks to brainwash our children into believing that America is a fundamentally racist country and white people are to blame. The very fact that it draws attention to skin color and not the content of a person's character is racist. We are all created equal. Are you willing to deny the Declaration of Independence as foundational for our great nation? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Please open your eyes. The woke culture itself is a tool of the deep state to divide us and destroy our nation. If you are not for us, you are against us, so please wake up. Be courageous and uphold your oath of office. Martin Luther King Jr. is probably rolling over in his grave right now. Has woke culture rejected Martin Luther King Jr. as well? Let us not forget this brave man's words. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. This great patriot and man of God also said, our lives begin to end the day we became our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. You have all vowed to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Merriam-Webster definition of enemy is as follows: one that is antagonistic to another, especially one seeking to injure, overthrow, or confound an opponent, something harmful or deadly, a military adversary, a hostile unit or force. I'd say BLM, critical race theorists, our governor fit into that definition as they push to destroy our way of life and brainwash our children. Why are you willingly adhering to these anti-American and unconstitutional ideas and actions? Please do the right thing and do not continue with the state of emergency in Temecula. Marianne Edwards, I am truly sorry, but you have broken your oath to your office and you must step down immediately. You also have failed to respond to the signed affidavit within the specified 10-day period. Lawful notification has been provided to you stating that if you do not rebut the statements, charges, or vermins made in this affidavit declaration, then you tacitly agree with and admit to them. The next speaker is Skyler Temple. Good evening, council and staff. I'd like to commend the council and executive staff for proclaiming June Pride Month here in the city of Temecula. This is a great step in continuing to recognize not just the diversity of our community, but also recognizing the long and still ongoing fight for true equality under the law in this country. Secondly, I'd like to once again speak directly to Ms. Alexander, as this is the only mode of communication she seems to respond to. After all, upon review of thousands of emails you receive, you respond to only a handful. Remember that email I sent to you many months ago asking for a meeting? After I attempted to follow up and the council assistant offered to set up a meeting, you reached out to the city manager asking who she is. Aaron respectfully corrected my gender and informed you that I am in fact a he that has been involved in our community for many years. You would know this if you had dared to live in our city for more than a few years. He even informed you of my political activity, as any good city manager would do. The moment you learned of this, you decided to no longer represent me. You ignored all attempts to be contacted, and now look at the mess you've created. I still maintain my position that you are only in this for yourself and are unfit to serve. This especially rings true after you drove yourself to a right-wing Reopen California event in January and had the gall to have the taxpayers pay for it. Do our community a favor and resign. The next speaker is Bob Cal. It has been 452 days since Newsom put California into a state of emergency. Temecula needs to reopen. Riverside County needs to reopen. The virus is just about over. In Temecula, 78 people died from COVID out of a total population of 1,115,500 people. I could not find the statistics for death by automobile, but I see accidents every day on our roads, and the council wants to add 20,000 more people to Temecula to receive Title VIII housing money. Forget the money, we want our freedom. Get rid of the mask mandate and start finding places that require masks, except hospitals and places that would normally require masks, like paint shops, etc., of course. The next speaker is John Andrews. I am amazed that our city council meetings are still closed and you people are still wearing masks. Why are you fearful of a sickness that has a 99% recovery rate for those under 55? It seems as though you are more concerned with appeasing the Karens of the world rather than exercising your right to breathe freely. Had I known you people were this weak, I would have voted for your opponent. Thank you, Jessica Alexander, for conducting yourself like a leader. Your peers have much to learn. The next speaker is Andrea Andrews. Actually, it is a duplicate of John Andrews verbatim. Actually, there is one sentence that is different, so I will go ahead and read it. Why is it that our city council meetings are still closed, and why are you still wearing masks? How can you remain fearful of a sickness that has a 99% recovery rate for those under the aging of 55 and without compromising health issues? It seems as though you are more concerned with appeasing your peers rather than exercising common sense and upholding the rights of people to breathe and live freely. Had I known you people were this weak, I would not have given you my vote. It is time for you to get a backbone, stand up for the rights of the people who voted for you. Thank you, Jessica Alexander, for conducting yourself like a leader. Your peers have much to learn. This is a comment to the comment from Chris Skinner that I read a couple of comments before from Sonia Perez. Love the subject line, Chris. I'm excited to watch the council meeting tonight as we all have written in on point public comments. I blasted them with our wanted sign on all groups and social media because I know they really appreciate when I do that. The next speaker is Nada Hegora. My name is Nada Hegora, and I am a civil rights lawyer in Murrieta, California. We represent many clients in Temecula, including businesses and nonprofit organizations. It is my understanding that later in this meeting, mandated vaccines will be discussed. The attorneys at our office, including myself, have prepared an exemption form for those who wish to assert their legal right to decline COVID-19 vaccines based on federal law, including religious and medical exemptions. We have made this exemption available to the public at no cost because we believe in empowering families in our local community to make the best healthcare decisions for themselves, especially when it comes to vaccines not licensed by the FDA or studied for long-term side effects. And the last comment is from Tim Thompson. My name is Tim Thompson, and I am a spiritual leader in the Valley. I represent many of your constituents in Temecula, including members of my congregation who are business owners in Temecula. I believe at some point you will be discussing the topic mandated vaccines within the city of Temecula. Please know that I have created a formal doctrinal statement adopted by my church that reads as follows. Honor the Lord with your bodies, 1 Corinthians 6:20. Some vaccines, like certain COVID-19 vaccines, have not been sufficiently tested and are known to cause harmful side effects for some. We believe that the Bible encourages Christians and Jews to abstain from contaminating one's body with substances that may be threatening to one's bodily health. The Old Testament discusses unclean substances, Isaiah 64:6. Although the New Testament reveals Christ as the one who cleanses our souls, we still have a responsibility to honor the Lord through our bodies. For example, until long-term research can prove that use of COVID-19 vaccines are safe and efficacious, we consider such vaccines unclean. Furthermore, we believe the use of any vaccination containing cell lines from an aborted fetus is not only unclean, but is also a gross sin of rebellion against God's providential design. We further believe that requiring vaccines before one can participate in societal activities unnecessarily divides people who are created in God's image and hinders unity within our communities. We have made a religious exemption form available for members of our congregation who wish to assert their legal right to decline COVID-19 vaccines. I fully expect the City Council to respect the unalienable rights endowed to my flock by their Creator and protected by the Constitution of the United States of America, a document you have all sworn to defend. Thank you. Madam Mayor, that concludes the public comments. Madam Mayor, you are on mute.
There. All right. Thank you, Andy. We can move on to City Council reports, and I know we have a lot of slides tonight, so let's see. Zach, you want to go first? I think I talked to the guys in the booth, and I think you're up first.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Yeah, so I do have a slide. So as we're putting that up, this past weekend was
Zach,
yeah.
I read this backwards. We were going to save you until last.
Okay.
But you're already there, so go ahead.
No, it's fine. We can go to the end if you want to do your thing. If you want to move me to the end, I'm totally fine with that.
And the only reason I did is because what you're talking about kind of ties with what I'm talking about, and I'm going to go last.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, but IT has already put up the slides.
Okay, so let's go ahead, Zach. That's
all
right.
Madam Mayor, would you like to take anything off this slide?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. So it was a perfect weekend, obviously, last weekend for in Old Town to host our first in-person event of 2021. So we're really excited for that. So 15 talented chalk artists created their pavement masterpieces around the Main Street Y. This year's Best of Show winner was Anjo Drew, which you can see there pictured is her work. I know TCSD staff and the community as well are just excited to be back out in the community doing events. So that was really great to see. And then Juneteenth, we're having a virtual celebration this year for Juneteenth. This free virtual experience explores the historical journey of freedom for people around the globe, marking the legal end of slavery on June 19th, 1865. Let's celebrate together African-American achievements and connect with Black-owned businesses here in Temecula. Support participating businesses by accessing special June 19 discounts. We can cultivate new friendships and community while connecting with family and friends to reflect on our past and look toward our future this Juneteenth in Temecula. So you can visit temecula.gov/Juneteenth from June 19th through July 19th. And that's virtual this year, and we're certainly looking forward to an in-person Juneteenth next year. And with that, Madam Mayor, I am done.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to get this right this time. So Stu, I have you down as second, but Jess, let's take you first. We're going to take Jess first because I took Zach out of order.
Am I on? Okay.
Yeah, you are.
All right. So one of the things that I was able to do last week, actually with Pat from Public Works, was to visit CR&R and see this incredible monster of a machine called the anaerobic digester. Basically what it was explained to me is it's similar to a cow's stomach in there, and it needs to be heated to, I think it was 130 to 131 degrees in order to be able to break down all of this garbage that they have going in there. It was very interesting, but I'm going to read some of the things that it does. Number one, the digester produces 0 untreated emissions in a completely closed loop system that will, number one, eliminate more than 99% of the greenhouse gas emissions from vehicle operations, the equivalent of taking thousands of cars in your community off the road. Number two, it allows communities to participate allows communities who participate the opportunity to meet 75% recycling rate, now a state goal. Number three, they utilize waste collection trucks that have the lowest emissions in California, which is a wonderful plus. It provides water savings, organic fertilizer, and soil products for landscaping and farm uses from material not converted to the biomethane. And last but not least, of the many things it does also, it utilizes proven technology for guaranteed performance and results. So this was a great, I want to call it just a trip to be able to make and ask lots of questions. As you can see on the bottom left hand of your screen, it's they have a chem lab in there that I got to visit and see how they basically break all this stuff down. And it's really good. I'm excited. I don't believe there's any like it in the area. Is that correct?
Oh, there's
in
not.
Paris.
Yes.
So this is a great opportunity for our city to continue to work with CR&R in my opinion, and I'm just really proud to be connected with them. So thank you to Alex Brakovic.
Yeah.
Did I say that right? Brakovic. There it is. He was wonderful, and he is the senior regional VP. So thank you again, Alex.
And I don't know, did Alex tell you that Temecula has been their pilot program anytime they have wanted to float a new program? In fact, we were the first city that established with the 3 different, or the multiple trash cans to divide our trash and our green things. So, and the reason they are low emission is because everything that the byproduct of this facility is used to fuel all of their trucks. So virtually all of their trucks are running on this product. So they actually have less than a 0 footprint because it's a close. That's a great tour, isn't it?
It really was. They estimated an hour, and I think I was there for 2.
Oh yeah, but just the questions, that you have. Yeah, it's a great tour. Okay, so thanks, Jess. And so Stu.
All right.
You Stu.
Actually, take the slide down for just a second. Can you hear me? Okay. So I want to preface it before we see the slide. So my wife actually works for Community Mission of Hope. She's a volunteer there. And so, but she's recently become ordained as a chaplain. So she has started doing chaplaincy duty at Community Mission of Hope. And she came home telling me about the story of this homeless person that she came in contact with doing her chaplaincy. His name was Michael. And what he talked about is the need for people to be positive and kind to one another. And he went on to explain how, most areas, the policemen have a a real negative attitude or interface with the homeless population. But he says that's not what Temecula is. The police officers take the time to actually get to know their names. And in fact, they know every single homeless person's name in our town.
Yes.
And the minute they come across someone new, they connect with them, interface with them, and try to find out what they can do for them to help them off the street, to, you know, get into any kind of a program, you know, a rehab program. And so, but the comment is what got to me is she said what he told her is that the policemen here really were kind to them and really did take that time. And he said, before I moved to Temecula, I was homeless and hopeless. Now I'm just homeless, which I thought that was a very cool statement in the fact that, you know, Temecula is doing everything they can. And okay, now bring the slide up. And so these are just some of the statistics and the community partners that the city of Temecula has made over the years. And frankly, without these nonprofit community partners, we couldn't do a fraction of what we're able to do. So go all the way to the bottom and look at the Community Mission of Hope. That's basically a food pantry for these homeless people. And frankly, a lot of these people aren't homeless who are getting groceries from this food pantry. They're actually people who are teetering on that. I mean, literally they're one paycheck away from becoming homeless, but because of this food pantry, they're able to feed their kids and their themselves. And so it gives Community Mission Hope kind of fills that gap to try to keep people, you know, in their home and housed. Project Touch is also one that actually provides housing for these people, emergency, transitional, and permanent, and provides a lot of food. And I know my Rotary Club has done like toilet paper drives for them, and my Interact Club has done that. And so there's a lot of ways to get involved in stuff like that. If you're out there and you're scratching your head and saying, what can we do to help, you know, the homeless situation? Just something simple as dropping off a pack of toilet paper to Project Touch. And that's always a really good, that's something that they need desperately. And Salvation Army, again, provides emergency housing. And what they do especially is they provide a lot of transitional living and gets them in touch with that rehab component. So Salvation Army is really good at that. Circle Care Ministries, again, you know, provides food and just other necessary necessities. But you know, I really wanted to highlight those nonprofit partners because, like I said, city doesn't have the funds or the ability to do all the things these nonprofit partners do. And here's just a year to date through May, 69 total clients. And these are, once again, these are people that the Hot Team and Swag and our people actually know. I mean, they literally know everybody's name. 23 total street exits, which is incredible. You know, and so, you know, in that 69, you know, we'll exit 23, but we'll pick up some from, you know, that travel in. Sure. So it kind of goes up and down. It fluctuates on that. But 8 in permanent housing, 7, you know, emergency shelters, 5 transitional housing, and 3 substance abuse facility placements. So once again, that's an incredible thing for a city our size to be able to do, you know, especially with the resources that we have. So I just wanted to highlight that. And once again, it was my wife's comment to me that really made me think we're doing a really good job in providing services and giving these homeless people an opportunity. And that's all we can do. We can just provide them with an opportunity to get off of, to better themselves if it's a substance abuse facility, or point them in the right direction for services like housing and whatever. So again, I can't thank the nonprofit partners enough for what they do for our city and the homeless people in our city. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stu. The what you just described is the first, I call them the three-legged stool, and it has three legs. And when something has three legs, it's never off balance. It's always going to be balanced. And that component is to develop relationships. And we actually have information sheets, emergency contact sheets for each one of those people. If we happen to find them and they're sick or they're unconscious or something's wrong, we know who we can call. We know what medicines they're taking that the paramedics would need to know. So, the HOT team does a wonderful job of developing those relationships. And once they have that trust, that is when they are able to provide, suggestions and provide help. And the individuals trust them enough to go ahead and get some help. So I'm so proud of that program, and I know you are too. It is a wonderful program. So thank you, Stu. Okay, so I'm going last, and I had the opportunity today to do another dedication and introduction for our student mural project that is located down at Sam Hicks Park, on the side of a building between that building and the Temecula History Museum. So this was unveiled today, and these are students, Temecula students, and they were helped by the student Black student Great Oak High School's Black Student Union kind of helped them organize this event. And it's fantastic. Each one of these photographs or individuals was taken at a different time. And then they were knitted together by obviously computer graphic program. So you would never know that they weren't standing side by side other than to look at the shadows on the ground. And they represent all the things that it meant to them to be free. Imagine things they can do. Imagine, create, achieve, thrive, change, dream, share, learn, inspire, and succeed. And this was, again, in honor of Juneteenth. So that's why, Zach, I said you're doing a great lead in for the mural. And Councilmember Swank was there today, and Councilmember Stewart was there today, along with members of our Ready Commission. And other commissions, some of our regular commissioners were there. So, and Kevin shared an interesting thing about Juneteenth. We know it was established to commemorate the actual signing of the Emancipation Proclamation on June 19th, 1865. But he said it took 2 more years for the word to spread throughout the land, throughout the states, that slavery had been abolished. So this is really, as I talk to the students who are fantastic, this is really like they celebrate their Independence Day. It means that much to them, to the history of Black individuals in the United States. So we're honored to be able to celebrate with them. And this is an astounding work. I don't know the size of it, but it's quite large. I'm going to say maybe 15 feet long and 6 feet high, 7 feet high. And several of these students were there today. And each one, you can tell they've got, he's holding a letter J for his name. She's carrying, the second one under create, actually painted that portrait. Then you've got achieve through sports. The next gentleman, thriving, is a photographer. This lady is representing change. I think she's a member of the group. And then we've got dream. And then the lady that's seated in the chair is 99, I believe 99 years old, and still gets around. And I was told she actually picked cotton and has stories to tell. And I would love to talk to her. And then, of course, we've got learning and then inspire. And the lady under the inspire, she really pulled everything together. And then this was her idea, the design for this mural. And then we end with succeed. So if you want to see this, it's very moving, and it's a magnificently done piece. So they were also helped by Rivera Imagery, and then all the names that you see at the bottom, just fantastic. Then MSJ student helped along, and then media director student helped along. So get down to the History Museum if you can over the next couple of weeks. You know, it will be up till the end of the month, and then we will take this down and put up another student-led art piece. This has become a wonderful way to celebrate our students and for our students to share their art with the community and with their friends. So go to the History Museum and you can't miss it. It's wonderful, and I'm very, very proud of all of these students. So thank you. Okay, so we can move on to the consent calendar.
Can I jump in real quick?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, Matt, you got one? I didn't know. Nobody told me.
It's cool. I didn't provide a slide, so I didn't think that was our thing now, but I'm just going to start putting in a blank slide so I can hold a place for comments.
So you could just say Matt on it.
Yeah, I'll just put my name on it. No worries. Hey, so just real quick, just a quick update. You know, I serve on the Public Safety Policy Committee for the League of Cities. We had a meeting last week, and there were a couple of bills that we took positions on that will be brought back to the board later. But, you know, focused mostly on issues related to alcohol sales in some of the enhanced dining and outdoor seating and things that have gone on throughout the state of California during COVID. And so there was kind of a multi-pronged focus on some of the legislation. Part of it was to make sure that businesses and, you know, who have expanded to outdoor dining aren't just, you know, completely shut off from that. And that there's either a period to, you know, make permanent those solutions with their municipalities or cities, or to allow for sort of a phasing out and at least you know, a clear timeline for that. And the other was the issue of cocktails and drinks for sale to go. And it's sort of become an issue with certain businesses around the state. And so, you know, there was a lot of discussion related to public safety regarding that as well. But also wanted to mention that as Chief Crater had mentioned earlier in his report with the fireworks, there was also quite a bit of discussion on improving our state's ability to address some of the fireworks, including those that are deemed dangerous, and sort of enhancing some of the language in what we define as a dangerous firework so that enforcement is a little bit more effective. So look forward to seeing the legislature move on some of those bills.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the update. Now we can move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine, and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the City Council request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Item number 1, waive reading of standard ordinances and resolutions. Item number 2, approve action minutes of May 25th, 2021. Number 3, approve the list of demands. And number 4, adopt resolution reaffirming and proclaiming the existence of a local emergency related to the COVID-19 virus pandemic. And I think I'm going to be pulling this one. So approve First Amendment to the cooperative agreement to provide fire protection, fire prevention, rescue, and medical emergency services for the city of Temecula for fiscal year 2021-22. Number 6, approve Third Amendment to the agreement for consultant services with Michael Baker International, Inc. for the traffic signal park and ride access improvements PW 18-11. And number 7, approve plans and specifications and authorize solicitation of construction bids for the sidewalks Old Town Improvement 5th Street from Old Town Front Street to Murrieta Creek project PW 2020. Number 8, receive and file temporary street closures for 2021 summer event, and that has to do with the fireworks display at the sports park. So I want to pull that one item, pardon me, item number 4, but I would like to have a motion for the remainder in a second.
I'll move the balance.
Okay.
Second.
Second, okay, we have a motion and a second for all but item number 4. So could we have the roll call, please, Randy?
Yes. Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Councilmember Ron?
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart?
Aye.
Councilmember Schwank?
Aye.
Mayor Edwards?
Aye, thank you. So I pulled number 4, which is adopt resolution reaffirming and proclaiming the existence of a local emergency related to the COVID-19 virus pandemic. And the reason I pulled this one is because we're kind of in flux now. We have June 15th coming up rapidly, and we don't know what the changes are going to be. And then we've also heard some, other news. So Sacramento is all abuzz, as it probably is. So what I would like to do, I'd like consensus maybe to save this and see what happens on June 15th, and then we can revisit this at another council meeting if we need to. And do I have any questions or comments from members? No? Zach?
Yeah, so I guess I'm sort of caught off guard with this. I guess my question would be for our city manager. Is that even possible? Like, I mean, I know it's clearly possible that we can put it off, but does that put us in an issue where we're sort of lapsed on what we proclaimed in the past, since we've done it traditionally every single month?
Yeah, no, we've, Peter and I have talked about this, and given sort of the potential for changes related to the state, the county, we feel like if whatever we approve tonight, we would be back in front of the council probably in 2 weeks or less with more changes to consider. So I think we're both comfortable by tabling this agenda item to post June 15th and bring it back in front of the council if needed, thereafter. And we've kind of discussed it offline in terms of everything that we got going as it relates to the declared emergency, and we're comfortable deferring it at this time.
Perfect. Thank you for answering that.
Yeah, I might also just add that the state law says that we're supposed to reconsider these every 60 days. And actually, at the beginning of the pandemic, the governor issued an executive order waiving that. So while the city has routinely walked through that and looked at it every 60 days or so, there is no absolute requirement. Nothing lapses. And Aaron's absolutely right. Not only are there changes in the state regulations as to what's going on, there's obviously a much different environment with the number of cases going down, number of hospitalizations. So we'd have to rework those findings anyway. The only other two comments I have is this local declaration has nothing to do with the mask requirement or with businesses opening or closing.
No.
This is really just to position the city to be able to take quick action if we need it. And as Aaron has pointed out, while he has broad authority to approve agreements, over the last couple of months, he's been bringing all of those back to the council. So you're getting much more into the kind of mode that we were in before the pandemic. And then in terms of the authority that we have been using, it's pretty much for recovery. The providing assistance to the businesses, allowing the businesses to be in the street, use their parking lots, use the park. Those are all things that we can do, but we were able to do them much quicker with the local declaration. So we'll put all of that together and bring it back to you. I would say probably the first meeting in July is pretty quick coming up on the next meeting.
Yeah.
And it'll give us some time to digest all that the city is doing. I mean, the state rather, that the state is doing. And then we'll make an adjustment at that point in time.
So
be able to provide you with some very specific recommendations and whether or not we need it for some of the recovery efforts.
Madam Mayor, I might add to, just related to this, by not extending this tonight, it does not jeopardize the emergency funds that we're in receipt of that we have been giving back into the community. And so we're in the process of continuing to grant COVID dollars to residents through our rent relief program as well as our mortgage assistance program. So that is a good thing. Of course, that's what we did last summer with the business community. So those programs do remain available and will continue.
So not only have we not closed businesses, nor have we told businesses to close, we've been helping businesses stay open by funding them to the tune of $500,000. And we have another round of that coming up. Plus in Old Town, we've helped the businesses expand in order to comply and keep their restaurants open by expanding into the street. So the city has, we have every intention of supporting our businesses any way that we can. We don't impose any rules like that to close or not to close. So that comes from the state. So, okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second for this one.
Yeah, I'll move to table it.
Okay. I need a second.
Good.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Randy, could we have the roll call, please?
Yes.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, yes, Jess.
Just a quick question before I vote on this real quick.
Sure.
So just to make sure that I'm 100% clear to vote. So basically all we're doing is we're taking this and we're just postponing the emergency, this state of emergency for Temecula till our next meeting. Is that correct? Or is it going to be till the following meeting? Because I was kind of lost on what Mr. Peter was saying. So
by not acting on this tonight, the local emergency stays in effect, and we will bring it back. I suppose if everybody really wants it, we could bring it back at the next meeting with some additional information. My only reluctance there, and it's just a mild one, is that we may tell you that, well, we still have some questions left over from the state, but we could certainly bring it back and have you discuss it at that time. And I believe also at this next meeting, we're going to be discussing, all of the different programs of reimbursement for FEMA costs, for emergency costs, the American Recovery Act, and how all of those mesh together and what the requirements are for that. So, yeah, I don't want to put the burden on city manager's office, but I would be prepared to come at the next meeting just to make sure that we're covered on all these issues.
We expect to hear something from Sacramento tomorrow, and certainly we know we're going to hear by the 15th. So OSHA is having an emergency meeting tomorrow. So all kinds of things are going on up there. So if it's rescinded, then which I hope it would be, then we wouldn't have to approve it at all. So we're kind of in a wait and see, and hopefully that it will be rescinded by the governor and not necessary. So that's what I'm hoping for anyway.
So is that something that, sorry.
We'll bring it back at the next meeting and do as much as we can. And if there's any weird things that go on in that period of time, we'll let you know about it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, that's exactly what I was looking for. I appreciate it.
Okay, so
Go ahead and call the roll call vote. Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Mayor Edwards?
Aye.
Councilmember Ron?
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart?
Aye.
Councilmember Schwenk?
all right, then I am.
Thank you.
Did you finally say aye? Okay. I'm going to recess the Temecula City Council meeting to the Temecula Community Services District, and take it away, Councilmember Schwenk.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm going to call tonight's Temecula Community Services District meeting to order. Madam City Clerk, since we remain in this virtual setting, would you please call the roll call?
Yes, Director Alexander?
Here.
Director Edwards?
Aye. Here.
Director Ron?
Here.
Director Stewart? Director Stewart?
Still here.
Sorry, President Schwenk?
And I'm here. Thank you very much. Do we have any public comments this evening?
We do not.
Okay, thanks. I'll go ahead and dispense with the reading of those rules, and we'll move on to our consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the Temecula Community Services District request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Item number 9 is approve action minutes of May 25th, 2021. I'll entertain a motion in a second.
Move approval.
All right, I heard Mayor
Second.
Edwards. And I saw Matt, but he was on mute. Sorry, Matt.
That's cool.
All
So,
right.
so I actually have a motion by Director Edwards and a second by Director Stewart is who I heard.
Yeah.
And so I'll just go ahead and call the roll call now. Director Alexander?
Aye.
Director Edwards?
Aye.
Director Ron?
Aye.
Director Stewart?
Yes.
President Schwenk?
Thank you very much. That item passes 5-0. Moving on to our director's report. Director Hawkins, do we have a report this evening?
Well, Mr. President, just simply thank you for the events updates earlier and the spotlight on the student-led art project at Sam Mix Park. I too would encourage the community to come out and make a day of it in Old Town, with the History Museum being open from Tuesday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Experience the playground featuring the family style oodle swing, which I know many of the council members have participated and played on, and the mural in between your dining and shopping options. So that simply concludes my report, but come check it out.
Thank you very much. Well said. It's beautiful things happening down there for sure. So thank you. General Manager's report. Anything this evening?
Nothing tonight, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Any director's reports this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to adjournment, and our next regularly scheduled meeting of the Temecula Community Services District will be held on Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. We are adjourned.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to reconvene and go to the joint meeting of the successor agency to the Temecula Redevelopment Agency and the City Council. So we call that meeting to order, and could we have the roll call, please, Madam City Clerk?
Yes, Chair Edwards. Director Alexander?
Here.
Director Ron?
Here.
Director Schwenk?
Here.
Director Stewart?
Here.
And Chair Edwards?
Here. Okay, do we have any SARTA public comments?
We do not.
We do not. All right, then we're going to move to item number 10, approve First Amendment to the ground lease and regulatory agreement between the City of Temecula as housing successor to the former Temecula Redevelopment Agency and Temecula Gardens 2 LLP, Affirmed Housing, located at 28493 Pujol Street. All right, could I have staff report, please?
Madam Mayor, this is a
Oh, it's a consent. All right. So it's a consent item, so we need a motion and a second.
I'll move the consent.
Second.
All right, could we have the roll call, please?
Yes. Director Alexander?
Here.
Director Ron?
Here.
Director Stewart?
Here.
Director Schwenk?
Here and yes.
And Chair Edwards?
Here. Okay, so anything, Executive Director
Nothing further.
or board members? Nothing. So we are going to adjourn SARTA until the next meeting, which will be held on June 22nd. Thank you very much. And now we're moving on to the joint meeting of Temecula City Council and Community Service District public hearing. So this is a public hearing. So any person may submit written comments to the City Council before a public hearing or may appear and be heard in support of or in opposition to approval of the projects at the time of the hearing. If you challenge any of the projects in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the city clerk at or prior to the public hearing. Number 11, approve fiscal years 2022 through 26 capital improvement program CIP and adopt fiscal year 2021 to 22 CIP and annual operating budgets for the City of Temecula, the Temecula Community Services District, TCSD, and the successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency, SARTA. Okay, so can we have a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. And good evening again, Madam Mayor, members of City Council. First off, I wanted to acknowledge that each of you has been thoroughly briefed individually on items pertaining to the budget and the CIP over the past 60 days, as well as you all participated in our annual notice budget workshop on May 18th. I wanted the community to be made aware that you are not seeing this comprehensive update in these numbers for the first time this evening. I'm happy to share that the city's operating budget is balanced. The community services budget is balanced. The capital improvement program remains solid and well-funded. And given the unprecedented times that we are in, city operations have definitely been impacted. However, I'm pleased to say that we're beginning to see the economy rebound, revenues increase, and services returning where possible within the public health guidelines. Tonight, we will walk you through the budget process and highlight improvements that have been incorporated early on in the process. Director of Finance Jennifer Hennessy will summarize the COVID impacts and the operating budgets for the general fund and Measure S fund. Captain Zach Hall will present the police budget and highlight the department's special teams. Fire Chief John Crater will present the fire department budget, and Director of Community Services Kevin Hawkins will discuss the TCSD budget and how they've successfully pivoted and continued offering quality of life services during the pandemic. Director of Human Resources and Risk Management, Isaac Garibay, will provide an update on city staffing levels. And Director of Public Works, Pat Thomas, will discuss the capital improvement program budget. And Director of Community Development, Luke Watson, will summarize the affordable housing projects that are in progress and slated for future development. As you will see throughout tonight's presentation, the city's financial position is healthy with all funds balanced and all reserves fully funded. The budget process begins each year in January with the review of the current year's budget and the development of revenue projections and the preliminary 5-year forecast, which serves as the baseline budget for the ensuing fiscal year. This year, we did things a little differently, and we brought an item to the City Council in early February to affirm our budget priorities and key fiscal policies. Council's confirmation of the priorities served as the foundation upon which staff developed the annual budget. Additionally, we added budget engagement sessions with each of the city's 5 boards and commissions during February and March. Invaluable feedback was obtained through these meetings, and much of the board and commission members' feedback has been incorporated into our budget recommendations. We have a separate slide coming up to review their feedback. And during the month of April, departments present their request via several internal review meetings, which culminate in the development of the proposed budget and capital improvement program that was presented at the May 18th workshop. Since the budget workshop, only one change from the proposed budget is reflected in the final operating and capital budgets presented tonight, which will be discussed in the CIP portion of the presentation. From the budget engagement sessions with the board and commissions, several themes emerged from the discussions, including the board and commission members overwhelmingly agree that the city's investment in resources are in line with the community's priorities. Public safety should remain the city's top priority. There should be a continued investment in public safety, parks, amenities, and community services that are highly valued. And a continued fiscal responsibility and long-term planning are both critical to providing the desired levels of service that Temecula is known for. Common suggestions provided by the board and commission members included increasing the safety in Old Town, add more sports fields and pickleball courts, provide affordable housing options, and maintain ongoing community engagement. You will see that we've taken these comments to heart and have incorporated them throughout the budget and the capital budget. You'll hear from Captain Hall that the Metro team has made immediate and noticeable impacts in Old Town. You'll see that a new CIP project has been added for pickleball courts, and a summary of affordable housing has been added to the budget documents that are detailing millions of dollars invested in housing options since the city's incorporation. Speaking of listening to our community and popular investments for our residents, the coming year will also bring the addition of more mini pump tracks within our park system. the continued addition of themed playground replacements, construction of a new splash pad for the public, given the popularity of Eagle Soar Park, a brand new intergenerational community center at Mike Nagar Community Park, a brand new sports park at Somers Bend, which we call the Ranch, significant investment in residential neighborhood slurry seal of streets, and ongoing investments in our police and fire personnel, equipment, demonstrating our financial commitment to our #1 priority of public safety. And of course, there is a significant investment and dedication in pickleball infrastructure. Lastly, we will be presenting the largest capital improvement program in the city's history. These investments in Temecula's public infrastructure over the next 5 years is significant. And I do not want it to get lost on anyone how unique and fortunate this is, especially for a city our size. We have worked extremely hard in this arena, securing outside funds. For context, Temecula's capital budget is north of $700 million. This is larger than many more populous cities and certainly larger than anything in the region, including the city of Anaheim, Irvine, Riverside, Moreno Valley, twice that of Corona, 7 times that of Murrieta, and larger than fast-growing cities like Menifee and Lake Elsinore. Several community outreach efforts are in progress this year with the update of the city's quality of life master plan and general plan documents. A citizen survey has been recently conducted and the top line results are being reviewed and will be presented at a future meeting. As with previous budget presentations, we would like to suggest that we run through the program and the slides in their entirety and then pause on the back end for discussion and questions and answers. We believe that many of the questions may be answered or clarified when the whole budget picture is explained surrounding the, the annual operating budget, the capital budget, the Temecula Community Services District, and the 5-year forecast. Director of Finance Jennifer Hennessy will now review the fiscal impacts of the pandemic and the general fund and Measure S budgets. Jennifer.
Great. Thanks, Aaron, and good evening, Mayor and City Council members. In addition to the fiscal impacts of the pandemic, tonight's presentation will provide an in-depth explanation of the economic and financial assumptions used to project the city's various revenue sources. A year ago, when we presented the fiscal year 2021 budget, just weeks into the pandemic, our projections were tentative at best. The unprecedented time caused much uncertainty. At that time, projections for the city's major revenue sources resulted in a loss of nearly $15 million. But because the stay-at-home orders impacted primarily the service and hospitality sector, many professional level workers actually experienced an increase in disposable income as they were no longer commuting, traveling, or spending on entertainment. Subsequently, sales tax, Measure S, and Measure A revenues all fared much better than originally expected. Actual loss in revenue compared to our original budget projections totaled just over $5 million. TCSD was impacted significantly more than originally anticipated due to the stay-at-home orders and the subsequent shutdown of facilities, programs, and events. Later in the presentation, Kevin will walk you through how TCSD weathered 2020 and continue to offer an array of services to the community. For comparison purposes, the next series of charts show how our projections have changed throughout the past year. Using a sensitivity model created a few years ago, the fiscal impact of the pandemic was forecasted over the next 5 years. As shown here, the anticipated drop in revenue caused the city's available fund balance to plummet without any corresponding reduction in costs. As presented in last year's final budget, significant reductions were recommended in order to balance the budget and maintain the majority of the city's reserves. Contingency plans were put into place in the event the pandemic worsened the expected impact, or if revenues improved, which fortunately they did. The model now shows a steadily increasing fund balance, reserves fully funded and exceeding the 25% of expenditure target. Available fund balance hovers between $8 to $12 million per year for the combined 3 operating funds, the General Fund, Measure S Fund, and the TCSD Fund. a much different outlook than 1 year ago. The general fund serves as the city's primary operating fund and provides the resources necessary to deliver public safety, public works, community development, and administrative services to the city of Temecula. General fund revenue for the current year is projected to be $79.5 million, with fiscal year 21-22 projected to increase to $87.3 million as the economy continues to rebound. Expenditures for fiscal year 2021 are $79.3 million and will increase to $81.7 million next fiscal year. The general fund also contributes resources to other funds as listed here, and in fiscal year 2021, per budget policy guidelines, $2 million in surplus fund balance was deposited into the pension trust, which will be utilized to cover the increasing cost of the CalPERS pension benefit. Fire station number 12 is owned by the state, and they've notified the city of a pending closure of the station within the next 5 years. So a new fund has been established to accumulate resources for the potential purchase of this station. The general fund will contribute $1.5 million into this fund from the savings anticipated in the fire services contract, which will be discussed later in more detail. General fund revenue is projected to increase by 9.8% to $87.3 million, mostly attributable to the rebound in sales tax, transient occupancy tax, and additional Measure S funds to support public safety. Sales tax, property tax, and Measure S are forecasted in conjunction with the city's consultant, HDL Companies, whose team is dedicated to analyzing transaction level detail and statewide economic trends. Projections in these categories show solid growth as the economy continues to recover after the pandemic. Transient occupancy tax, or TOT, is projected to increase significantly as this sector was hardest hit during 2020. The TOT revenue forecast was prepared in conjunction with Visit Temecula Valley and is projected to be $3.2 million next fiscal year, which is still below the pre-pandemic level of $3.4 million per year, even with 3 new hotels opening this year. Measure S reflects funding for 11 police officers, staffing for Fire Station 95, future asset replacement, plus $3 million to augment public safety funding. Transfers in show a decline because of the one-time receipt in Federal CARES Act funding in the prior fiscal year. General fund expenditures are projected to increase by 3% to $81.6 million, of which 58% is dedicated to public safety. Public Works makes up 19% of the general fund and is expected to increase 5.1%, due primarily to increased parks maintenance expenditures for utilities and landscape maintenance for the new sports park in Somers Bend. Administration makes up 13% and is expected to increase 1.8% next year. And community development makes up 8% of the general fund and is expected to decrease by 1% due to a reduction in consulting services within the planning department. I'll now turn the presentation over to Captain Zach Hall, who will present the police department budget.
Good evening. The police department budget of $38.2 million reflects a 6.4% increase over the prior year. The budget includes an estimated 6% in sheriff's contract rate, plus the implementation of the new Flock license plate reader system. 2 motorcycles are up for replacement next year, as well as an SUV used by the Community Action Patrol Team. Staffing levels are projected to remain the same as this year, with 112 sworn officers and 17 community service officers. Additionally, the department has 47 volunteers who provide between 800 and 900 hours per month. The city contracts with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department to provide 205 hours of patrol coverage per day, which is the equivalent of 42 deputy sheriff positions. In addition, the city contracts for 45.5 dedicated sworn positions, which serve as command officers and various special teams, including the recently created Old Town Metro Team, which has made a significant impact in reducing crime and increasing the safety in Old Town. Our homeless outreach team has worked in conjunction with city staff and SWAG to address this growing concern. Temecula Unified School District has partnered with the city to provide for 5 school resource officers who work to keep our schools safe. The special teams are just a few examples of how cities are able to customize the services provided through the sheriff's contract to address the local issues specific to each community. I will now turn the presentation over to City Manager Adams for some additional comments on law enforcement.
Thank you, Kat. We have been having a lot of conversation of late about the benefits and priority of law enforcement and varied police models. I wanted to remind the community that in the sub-region of Riverside County, no two cities are made up the same in terms of factors that contribute to law enforcement needs and protection. For example, Temecula attracts more than 3.3 million visitors a year as a tourism destination. This creates a tourism engine of over $1.3 billion. Visitors are good, but the attraction of being a destination that attracts a volume of people does bring with it a need for enhanced and diligent law enforcement. I will submit RSO does a very good job given these large numbers. Other variables we enjoy that can generate greater potential for criminal elements include the existence of a regional shopping mall, the presence of a very large auto mall, large-scale popular community events, a desirous wine country, and a vibrant and successful downtown in Old Town, and a high-end resort and casino in Pujol to the south. Temecula is unique. It is also important for me to address local control, as I have been afforded the great privilege over the last decade in choosing whom I believe would be the best fit to lead our police and fire personnel as captain and chief respectively for the city of Temecula. These positions become valued members of the executive staff here, and I remain grateful to Riverside County Sheriff's Department and Fire Department for extending the city this privilege. Also important to note, when our city needs to make operational adjustments and shifts of staffing, RSO has been a willing partner. The formation of the Old Town Metro team is the most recent example of fulfilling a need given the latitude and flexibility in the existing contract with the county. Other examples include the reallocation of existing staffing to form several special teams as our city grows and our city changes and our community policing needs become more apparent. These special teams, including Special Enforcement Team, Problem-Oriented Policing Team, the Homeless Outreach Team, and the Burglary Suppression Team, do an amazing job in community policing and take great pride in securing our community. Speaking of directed enforcement, just the other day, a gentleman emailed my office and Mayor Edwards on a law enforcement matter involving the south end of the city. He immediately received a return call from my office. He was provided correct information as a good amount of his misinformation he obtained from social media. He then also received a phone call from Temecula Sheriff Captain Zach Hall, then followed by a visit to his home by a lieutenant, which led to an adjustment in patrols and operations. The resident was pleased, his concerns were heard, and the information was corrected. You see, this happens daily, but just shines light a little brighter on the commitment to service and our will to listen and address community concerns. I appreciate the City Council allowing me to share these examples as my office gets a great deal of questions and confusion on this topic. Law enforcement will always be the largest line item in the city's budget, and our community for 3 decades has told us this is their top priority, and the city has made it so. This budget year once again reflects a financial commitment to this public safety priority. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Fire Chief, John Crater.
Good evening. The fire department budget for next year is projected to be $9.4 million, which is actually a decrease of 9.5% due to lower CAL FIRE rates. The overall contract with the county has decreased. The contract savings is recommended to be set aside for a new fire facility acquisition fund to begin saving for the potential purpose of Fire Station 12 in Old Town in the event the state sells the facility mentioned earlier. The contract cost is $16.9 million. However, over 9.2 is offset by the structure fire tax credit. The budget increase The budget includes the purchase of 2 medic squad vehicles that will be utilized for firefighters for emergency response. They will replace the old medic squad vehicles at Station 94 and Station 92. Staffing will remain 4-person per engine in the city and the ladder truck. A total of 71 fire personnel. This will continue to meet the Cal OSHA requirements of 2 in, 2 out for firefighter safety during a structure fire. Now I will turn it over to Jennifer Hennessy to finish up the general fund section of the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. The ending fund balance for the general fund is projected to be $27.7 million this fiscal year and $28.7 million next fiscal year. Reserves are fully funded, and after deducting for future commitments, the available fund balance is projected to be $6.8 million this year and $7.3 million next year. This slide illustrates the different components of the $28.7 million fund balance. Per our budget policy, 20% of operating expenditures are set aside into the reserve for economic uncertainty, and an additional 5% of operating expenditures are set aside into the secondary reserve. These funds are utilized in the event of a major disaster, significant loss in revenue, or for large unexpected expenditures. A portion of the fund balance is assigned or committed to future costs associated with capital projects that were previously approved in the 5-year CIP, as well as the Pechanga-funded police officer, as these funds are paid in advance. Unassigned fund balance is the amount available for one-time appropriations. The city has a long-standing practice of not only budgeting for the next fiscal year, but for the next 5 fiscal years. This long-term approach to financial management has served us well, especially in recent times, as we were able to forecast the long-term fiscal impacts of operational decisions made in the present. This slide illustrates the strong fiscal position of the city's general fund, which is structurally balanced over the next 5 years, with revenues exceeding expenditures each and every year. Both revenues and expenditures reflect realistic growth projections and include any known or anticipated contractual obligations. This slide further illustrates the fiscal health of the general fund by showing that fund balance remains steady and reserves are fully funded over the next 5 years. Measure S is the 1-cent transactions and use tax approved by Temecula voters in November of 2016. The revenue source became effective in April of 2017 and has generated over $110 million over the past 4 years. Fiscal year 21-22 Measure S revenue is expected to exceed $30 million with a projected 10% growth rate over the current year. Total appropriations of $33 million are in line with Council's policy guidelines, prioritizing public safety, asset management, capital projects, and general services. Public safety funding of $9.4 million is recommended to augment the police and fire operations. Asset management funding of $3.5 million includes the deposit of $2 million into the street maintenance fund and $500,000 each into the fleet, technology, and facility replacement funds. Capital project investments total just under $9 million for fiscal year 21-22 and will help fund 29 separate capital projects. And the general and community service funding totals $11 million, which is primarily dedicated to TCSD operations and library funding. A 5-year forecast is also prepared for the Measure S fund and is summarized here. Revenue is projected to grow 10% in 21-22, then 4% the following year, and then taper off to 3% growth per year. Annual appropriations gradually shift from funding CIP projects towards funding higher levels of public safety and general services over time. And the ending fund balance in each year is at a healthy level and available for any unforeseen one-time projects or programs. I'll now turn the presentation over to Director of Community Services, Kevin Hawkins, who will walk you through the TCSD operations budget.
Thank you, Jen. Normally, I begin our budget presentation by only sharing that the mission of TCSD is to improve the quality of life here in Temecula through a complement of programs, services, events, and activities that affect our youth, adults, senior, veteran, and special needs population. But given the challenges of the past year, I must add that the emotional intelligence displayed by our community services professionals through self-awareness, regulation, motivation, and empathy, wrapped in social skill, produce a level of creativity, flexibility, and compassion that demonstrated that Temecula truly cares. For during a year marked by social distancing and uncertainty, TCSD served as the city's intentional and much needed optimistic hug to the community. More than ever, the importance of creating community through people, parks, and programs was evident over the past 12 to 14 months and will remain as a critically important focus for the upcoming year. Community services may have been the hardest hit department from the global pandemic, but it did not stop us from continuing to provide an array of high quality services to our community. Through a combination of virtual, hybrid, and when possible, actual experiences, our remaining staff redoubled their efforts to find a way to ensure that any programs and services that could be safely offered were. During the current fiscal year, total revenue declined by 10% from last year. Many of our divisional operating budgets declined as well due to the stay-at-home orders, facility closures, and pause in many of the offerings we provide. However, with the support of our wonderful IT department, virtual cultural arts and MARC performances continue to entertain the community, while our inclusive services participants were able to remain engaged and connected with friends and city staff. Additionally, as public health orders allowed, our vital aquatics programs resumed in the summer, while the Ronald H. Roberts Temecula Public Library provided espresso pickup, which is a convenient curbside service that continues to be offered. Mary Phillips Senior Center, although physically closed, offered the much needed curbside meal distribution program throughout the pandemic, serving hundreds of seniors each week, including many who were new to the center. As part of our human services offerings, MPSC staff maintain contact with our patrons, checking on their well-being, informing them of mobile vaccination services at the senior center, as well as creating drive-through birthday celebrations with cards, flowers, hand sanitizers, blankets, and more. And if transportation poses an issue for our seniors, MPSC staff operates the SOS shuttle services weekly, providing curb-to-curb transportation from their homes to grocery stores and back. Despite the ramping up of program offerings, the closure of the MRC later this year at Mike Nagar Park for much anticipated reconstruction will result in contract classes projecting to resume at half the level as before the pandemic. Rest assured, this will not impact the widely popular pickleball classes there, which only saw our Here Comes Santa and Get Egged events generate more positive community feedback. Along those lines, and as shared at a recent council meeting, nothing marks a return to normalcy here in Temecula like one of our signature special events. With City Council direction, special events planning is in the works, and we're pleased to be able to bring back the 4th of July fireworks and ongoing movies, concert series, and other community events throughout the year. Our efforts to assist those experiencing homelessness are continuing with the partnership in place with the Social Work Action Group known as SWAG and the Police Department's Homeless Outreach Team, as well as collaborative efforts with neighboring agencies and faith-based groups such as the Community Mission of Hope. This teamwork has already resulted in 23 street exits so far this year, and we anticipate that very positive trend will continue in the upcoming fiscal year. Another positive trend resulting from these efforts, combined with the incredible new playground at Sam Hicks Parks, is return of families to the park and the adjacent History Museum. This has also led to a collaboration with the school district on a primarily student-led art mural series there, and the overall return of that missing soundtrack of children laughing and playing in this part of Old Town. Speaking of children, this summer will mark the completion of Friendship Park, where former council member Mike Nagar said, "When kids play together, They don't draw distinctions between race and ability. We are also anticipating the return to in-person summer day camp, sports, Penny Pickles workshop, and a continuation of last year's innovative aquatics programs. As mentioned, our contract class program is ramping back up, returning to indoor programming whenever feasible and continuing with the outdoor classes, which were so popular during the pandemic. Contract classes in particular are a wonderful opportunity for us to partner with local instructors who are experts in their field and offer a much greater variety of classes than we would be able to if we had to rely solely on staff-led programming. This variety will also be showcased in the return of our recreation guide later this week. And prior to the pandemic, during the Community Services Master Plan benchmarking process, our consultants repeatedly commented on the extraordinary scope and quality of our programming and activities. We certainly look forward to rebuilding these core offerings with the continued focus on quality and quantity. For next fiscal year, the budget assumes a gradual, safe reopening of facilities, programs, classes, and events as allowed by public health guidelines. Revenue is expected to grow 23.2%, and expenditures are increasing 17.5% as staff returns to provide the variety of program offerings that our community is accustomed to. As shown in the TCSD 5-year forecast, revenue levels are expected to return gradually over the next 2 years. As the pandemic wanes and public health guidelines loosen, TCSD will be positioned to quickly return to our previous levels and provide the community around and about Temecula with our award-winning programs, events, activities, and services. I will now turn the presentation over to our Director of Human Resources and Risk Management, Isaac Garibay, to discuss citywide staffing.
Thank you, Kevin, and good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. Included in tonight's budget agenda item is a separate resolution approving the schedule of authorized positions and salary schedule. I will provide a brief summary of the citywide staffing outlook for the next fiscal year. Today, authorized positions for fiscal year 2021-22 is increasing by 2 positions to a total of 177.7 full-time equivalent positions, which include the 5 council members. In accordance with the city's labor agreements, employees may request an evaluation of their job duties by an independent consultant to determine proper job classification for the work being performed. This year, a total of 19 employees will receive reclassifications to their job titles on July 1st, the funding for which has been included in the department's operating budgets. 2 project positions are recommended to be converted to authorized employees as they are currently performing job duties that are permanent in nature. Finally, there are 3 positions that are authorized, however, they are not funded in the next fiscal year. 2 of the positions will support operations at the new Margarita Recreation Center after its reconstruction, and the other unfunded position is within the finance office, as the position has been temporarily reassigned to a different classification. Staffing for the police and fire departments are provided through contracts with Riverside County and CAL FIRE. Police staffing is projected to stay consistent with current levels at the desired ratio of 1 officer per 1,000 residents. Fire staffing will also remain consistent with current levels and will continue to provide 4 fire personnel per fire engine and ladder truck. This chart shows the city's authorized staffing levels over the past 15 years. At the city's peak, a total of 210.8 positions were authorized. We remain 33.1 positions below that peak, with 177.7 total authorized positions. I will now turn the presentation over to Director of Public Works, Pat Thomas, to walk you through the Capital Improvement Program budget.
Thank you, Isaac. And good evening, Mayor Edwards and council members. The Capital Improvement Program, or CIP, is a comprehensive 5-year plan that addresses the capital needs of the city. Capital projects are those that cost over $30,000, have a long-term lifespan, and are generally non-recurring. As was mentioned earlier by City Manager Adams, the fiscal year 2022 through 26 CIP budget is the largest in the city's history, with over $700 million in total project costs. Since the budget workshop held in May, The city was informed by WRCOG that an additional $3.5 million in funds will be made available for the Diaz Road project. Also, as you approved earlier, $5 million in funding for projects are included in the IGA with the Pechanga tribe, and we thank the tribe for their partnership. These changes are reflected in the CIP budget presented tonight. The city has identified funding sources totaling $583 million, or 83% of the total CIP. The remaining $117 million is unspecified at this time. However, before construction begins on any of these projects, a funding source will be identified. The CIP includes a total of 92 separate projects segregated by project category, which I will highlight in just a moment. This slide illustrates the significant efforts of the city to leverage outside funding sources, which has yielded tremendous results in recent years. City funding contributes roughly 24% of the total CIP funding, with the remaining 76% from outside sources such as federal and state grants, Riverside County's Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee Program, the Measure A program, as well as other specific funding sources. The CIP includes the addition of 8 new projects this year. The Rainbow Canyon Road Pavement Rehabilitation Project has been added due to the unique nature of this road and will be funded in a future year. Under the Bike Lane and Trail Program, a project's been added to install lighting on the Great Oak Trail adjacent to Pechanga Parkway in the Wolf Creek community. I might also add that funding has been added to install lighting on the Murrieta Creek Trail in the Old Town section adjacent to the creek. Also in the Bike Lane and Trail Program, funding has been included to install mini pump tracks at additional park facilities. We've also added funding to install additional electric vehicle charging stations at multiple city facilities. Next slide, please. A project has been added to install an emergency generator at the Mary Phillips Senior Center with funding provided, 100% funding provided by the California Office of Emergency Services. A project has been added to convert additional city water services to recycled water utilizing funding provided by the Rancho California Water District. The project to renovate the dog park at the Mike Nagar Park is included, and that funding is provided through the California Prop 68 State Parks Program. And funding utilizing Measure S has also been included to install pickleball courts, which we intend to begin working on as soon as this budget has been adopted. Under the category of circulation projects, we have a total of 29 projects with over $570 million in funding. This is our largest project category. The first project, the French Valley Parkway Phase 2, adding lanes to I-15. This project is funded utilizing a grant that was provided by the United States Department of Transportation for $50 million. We have recently received approval of the environmental revalidation. We are proceeding with acquisition of right-of-way and expect to be able to begin soliciting bids before the end of this year and then start construction in early 2022. Pavement rehabilitation projects. We continue to do pavement rehabilitation projects on major roads throughout the city, as well as slurry seal projects throughout our residential neighborhoods. The Nicholas Road Extension Project is fully funded, utilizing funds provided by the Somers Bend Community Facilities District, and we are in the process of acquiring the necessary right-of-way and expect to begin construction on that project within the next year. The Diaz Road Expansion Project, as I mentioned earlier, will be funded utilizing funds provided through the TUMF program. We're working on plans for that and expect to begin construction on that next year as well. And the I-15 Congestion Relief and Auxiliary Lane Project is to add an auxiliary lane between Temecula Parkway and Rancho California Road. And this is one of the projects that is funded through the IGA with the Pechanga tribe. Under the category of infrastructure projects, the Margarita Recreation Center at the Mike Nagar Community Park plans are underway. We have a design build team working on plans for that project, which we expect to have completed by the end of this year and begin construction on that early next year. We're working on plans for renovation and expansion of the Community Recreation Center, or CRC, at the Ronald Reagan Sports Park, and expect to begin construction on that before the end of this year. The project to extend the San Gratuitous Creek pedestrian trail between Inez Road and Murrieta Creek is underway. We had a groundbreaking on that a few weeks ago. That project will be completed before the end of this year, at which time we will move to the next project, which is an undercrossing for San Gratuitous Creek at Margarita Road. We continue to work on adding infill sidewalks at locations where sidewalks are missing throughout the city, and that's an ongoing program. And the comprehensive general plan update is underway and expected to be in progress for the next 12 to 24 months. Under the category of parks and recreation projects, we have 15 total projects totaling over $25 million. These include improvements to flood control channels adjacent to park facilities to control and stabilize those flood control facilities. We continue to work on the playground equipment enhancement and replacement, which we've done numerous playgrounds over the past few years and are including Long Canyon Creek Park and Red Hawk Park in this year's program. We continue to work on other improvements throughout our park system, have included funding to install pickleball courts at a location in the city, and we'll be renovating the dog park at the Mike Nagar Community Park. I will now turn the presentation over to Luke Watson, our Community Development Director, who will discuss affordable housing projects.
Thank you, Pat. The city's primary funding source for affordable housing was the Temecula Redevelopment Agency. In 2012, the state of California disbanded all redevelopment agencies within the state. The city of Temecula serves as the successor agency to the Temecula Redevelopment Agency, otherwise known as SARDA, and is responsible for the eventual wind down of the remaining RDA obligations, including the investment of the remaining $12.8 million in bond proceeds of the former RDA. The City Council has approved funding agreements for 2 developments to provide an additional 137 affordable units. These affordable developments include, first, the Las Haciendas development, which is located in the Uptown Temecula specific plan area and will provide 77 multifamily affordable units. Currently, the developer is seeking tax credit financing in order to begin construction on this project. And second, the Vine Creek development is located at the corner of Pujol and Main Street and will provide 60 affordable units, 14 of which will be set aside for residents with special needs. And like the Las Haciendas project, the developer is currently seeking tax credits for financing in order to begin construction. In addition to the Las Haciendas and Vine Creek developments, the city is continuing to explore other affordable housing opportunities throughout the community with Habitat for Humanity on a 3rd Habitat-led affordable development that will include 6 for-sale townhomes available to low-income families and individuals. Discussions with the Habitat for Humanity team are progressing well, and the hope is that the development will be before the City Council for your consideration in the very near future. If approved, this Habitat for Humanity project will give the city a relatively rare opportunity to add another affordable for-sale homeownership opportunity to the city's affordable housing inventory. Along with the Habitat for Humanity development, the city recently utilized remaining affordable housing bond proceeds to purchase a 2-acre parcel of land in the Uptown Sports District of the Uptown Specific Plan area. Like the Las Haciendas site, this new property will be actively marketed to affordable housing developers for contribution to a future affordable housing development. While the loss of the redevelopment agency removed a dedicated revenue source for affordable housing, The city has been successful in deploying the remaining residual redevelopment agency funds into a number of affordable housing developments. Although the redevelopment revenue stream is no longer available, the city will continue to pursue every funding opportunity possible as we seek to meet the state mandated regional housing needs assessment goals. At this time, I will turn it back over to City Manager Aaron Adams to conclude tonight's presentation.
Thank you, Luke. The U.S. Treasury recently released the anticipated guidance on the new American Rescue Plan funding the city will receive. As such, this new funding is not yet incorporated into the final budget. After staff has had the opportunity to review the eligibility requirements for the $14 million we expect to receive over the next 2 fiscal years, we will bring back recommendations for appropriation at a future council meeting. Related to this item, we believe there's a great deal of confusion and misinformation out there. As such, we will have an agenda item for the City Council in 2 weeks to further explain what the American Rescue Plan is, how we plan to review it, the priorities, what's eligible, and the timetable for that program. So again, we'll be bringing back to the City Council in 2 weeks for an informational item. As you've heard tonight through this presentation, the city is financially stable over the ensuing 5-year period, with reserves fully intact, structurally balanced with revenues exceeding expenditure projections, and a robust capital improvement program that is 83% funded. However, with the environment, it is still prudent to continue to monitor the budgetary impact caused by the pandemic and bring back any budget revisions that may be necessary throughout the year. Looking forward, each day seems to bring glimmers of hope as our state and county move further into reopening phases and orders become more relaxed. Personally, I want to wish continued good health and blessings to the City Council, our employees, and our residents and our businesses. A special thank you to our finance budget team, led by Director Jennifer Hennessy, with Fiscal Service Managers Tricia Hawk and Rudy Graciano, and Management Analyst Tina Rivera. I'd also be remiss if I did not recognize our Assistant City Manager, Greg Butler, who always does a fantastic job with the budget every budget season. He will be missed as he is planning his retirement next month. So special thank you once again to Greg Butler, working on his last operating budget and capital budget. This concludes our presentation this evening, Madam Mayor, and myself and the staff are available for any questions, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Aaron. It is just an incredible achievement how we have come through COVID and continue to work with our capital improvement budget of $700 million. It's just unbelievable, and the projects are phenomenal. And 75% is monies that we have acquired from other agencies, federal government, state government, RCTC, other agencies. So it's just phenomenal what we've been able to do. So thank you. Are there any questions, council members? Stu?
Yeah, so it's more of a clarification. So you're saying we haven't even received $14 million yet, and we haven't spent a dime of that $14 million. I just want to clarify that for the public.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of comments received tonight and every council meeting in the past. We have not received $14 million. Again, we are not in receipt of $14 million. There is a formula that the federal government has developed for every city and county in the country. And based on that formula, that is what the city of Temecula is eligible to receive over 2 years or 24 months. There's a 155-page guidance document that was published by the U.S. Department of Treasury on what's eligible. We're poring over that. Now, many folks are also confused. This program is designed to help cities and counties with revenue loss due to a global pandemic, but it's not confined to only that. There are provisions in this program that allow cities and counties to invest going forward in eligible infrastructure and related projects in their respective communities. So we're in the process of putting all that together. We'll be working through city council subcommittees. It'll be a very transparent process for the entire community to weigh in on. And then ultimately, obviously, the city council at such time will be presented with recommendations and a menu of various items, and we will allow you all to make those ultimate decisions, at which time it will be final. Thank you for that.
That, Stu. Yeah. Any other questions? No? Going once, going twice. Amazing job, everyone. Just an amazing job. And we look forward to working on the prospect of receiving reimbursement for some of our expenditures due to COVID. So thank you. Okay. So this is a public hearing, so we need to, are there any comments, Madam City Clerk?
Madam Mayor, there are no public comments, and so we'll take a motion to approve if the council so desires.
All right, so I need a motion in a second.
I'll make that motion to approve it if I could just make one brief comment before we go on. Yeah, and I brought this up at the budget workshop, and I feel like it's important to bring it up again. That presentation is impressive, right? It's a very good story to tell, and it's probably the 10th time I've seen it, and I'm on the edge of my seat. You know, tell me more. It's a good story to tell, right? You know, I'm proud of the council colleagues here with me today, the commissioners for their input, the public for their input, but let's recognize the amount of time and energy that staff put into this and how well managed our city truly is on a day-to-day operational basis. I think it's so important to acknowledge and recognize that. You know, there's that saying, Temecula just didn't happen, right? We all know that, but that just bleeds down into every aspect of our city. So I'm just proud as a council member. I'm proud as a resident as well. Great job, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. So, and we don't balance for 1 year, we balance for 5. So, so I need a motion in a second.
I'll move.
Second.
All right. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Councilmember Ron?
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes, sir, ma'am.
Councilmember Schwank?
Aye.
And Mayor Edwards?
Aye. Okay, so we can move on to item number 13. And that is receive update on the temporary expanded dining retail program in Old Town and provide direction on a 1-year extension of the program. And that would be Mr. Luke Watson, front and center.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so everybody can see that?
Mm-hmm.
So like you mentioned, here today to talk about the temporary expanded outdoor dining and retail program. I know you're all very aware. The main reason we're here tonight is staff is looking for some general comment, feedback from the council on their thoughts about the program, generally speaking, but also a formal decision on whether to extend the program while staff develops a permanent an option for Old Town specifically. Just a little history. I know we're all very familiar. In June 2020 is when the City Council first approved the outdoor dining program. We know that the reasons why COVID pandemic restaurants were in dire straits. So it was a move to help them survive. As you know, we also experimented with street closures. There was positive and negative reactions to that. The city ultimately landed on a hybrid model where the streets were open and restaurants were allowed to use on-street parking as well as retail for their outdoor operations to meet the COVID restrictions. And by and large, to this point, I think mostly that for those that have used the program has been largely successful. But that comes to the program expiration, which is coming up on us here. The license agreements, both in Old Town and out of Old Town, are set to expire July 1st. Of course, there are the potential COVID restrictions being lifted on June 15th, which is still kind of hanging out there. That's something that needs to be considered, and I'll discuss that a little bit more as we get through the presentation. And we have heard from businesses, particularly in Old Town, that they're interested in what's going to happen with the permanent program, what the city's up to. And just a note too, just to remember, outdoor dining has always been and always will be allowed in Old Town as part of the specific plan on private property, which existed before COVID and will continue to exist long after. So considering all of this, considering the expiration of the outdoor license agreements here on July 1st, over the last month or two, staff has met with the Old Town Steering Committee, which is made up of council members Alexander and Schwenk, to discuss the program generally and to hear from the steering committee on what future, if any, the program would look like. Those discussions included, high-level conversation about the challenges and opportunities, and there are many on both sides. We didn't get into any of these in detail because we weren't yet ready to embark on that effort in depth, but they're just generally speaking, some of the challenges include impact to special events, a loss of parking, issues with sidewalks, ADA, fees for outside agencies, the environmental issues, what's going to happen with ABC. I know Councilman Ron mentioned earlier that there are some things happening at the state level to make that a permanent situation across the state they're operating under now, which are technically temporary. How does it? How would it all work with city CUPs, conditional use permits? Some kind of uniformity in what's actually built down there, and then of course impacts the specific plan. The opportunities are more obvious. It's obviously facilitating and supporting the businesses in Old Town, and would probably continue to do that. And with some changes to the standards, it could further add to Old Town's ambiance. I think that's been one of the things we've heard most, is that it makes the atmosphere warmer. And it, as I mentioned earlier, it does seem to be very popular with the businesses and with the patrons. So, so considering all that, the Old Town Steering Committee, prior to embarking on any kind of permanent program development effort, the Old Town Steering Committee asked staff to go out and speak with businesses, determine, kind of informally, but more formally, if there was interest in a permanent program, considering some of the challenges that they would be facing. So staff did go out and do that, kind of found out across Old Town to talk to, those that were partaking in the program currently. And what we found is that there is interest in a permanent program. So staff returned to the steering committee and let them know that. And the subcommittee, the steering committee, directed staff to come before the council and request that the license agreements be extended from when they're expiring this July 1, but to be extended out to July 1, 2022, while a permanent Old Town program is explored and developed. The steering committee also recommended to allow the program to continue outside of Old Town if restrictions are not fully lifted on June 15th by the governor. So just a quick note too, regardless of whether it's decided to extend or not, if they are extended, the city has the authority in the license agreement to terminate the license agreement for any reason within 7 days. So that remains a significant provision in the license agreement that gives the city all the flexibility it needs. So with that, the recommendation really is, number one, to get some general comments from the council, just to hear what your thoughts are about the program, and if there's any direction, particular or specific direction that you want to give staff, but also to the recommendation is to approve the Old Town Steering Committee's recommendation to extend the current license agreements to July 1st, 2022, which would be an automatic extension for everything in Old Town. And it would extend everything outside of Old Town if occupancy restrictions aren't fully lifted by the governor on June 15th. So in other words, if the governor doesn't allow full occupancy in restaurants throughout the city, then the license agreements would continue on for everything outside of Old Town, which would be similar to what we have right now. And then, of course, direct staff to explore and develop a permanent outdoor dining program in conjunction with collaboration with the steering committee for Old Town specifically. So that concludes my presentation. Madam Mayor, I'll throw it back to you for some hopeful comments on just the general comments on the program and then the recommendation.
Thank you, Luke. Excellent. Point of order, I would like a motion to extend, and we still have another significant agenda item. So let's just say 11 o'clock, and hopefully we won't take that long. So can I have a motion and a second to extend?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Record that as unanimous. Do we have questions for Luke? Or we can do questions or comments, either thing. Either one. Stu.
I personally love the outdoor effect, and with the installation of stop signs at every intersection, it really keeps the issue with danger or traffic issues. I mean, it's a slow roll through Old Town, let's just say that. So, and it just gives it a different vibe. It's so unusual now in Old Town that it makes it really, really cool. So I like it a lot. So I would definitely be in favor of extending.
Okay. Anybody else? Matt?
Yeah. Couple things. One, the what is it, SB 314 that I was sort of alluding to earlier this evening has to do with that idea from the alcohol beverage control folks on extending their licensing beyond a certain period of time. And right now what they've set it on is 365 days from the lift of the emergency order. And I'm wondering if, I mean, bill language could change, so maybe we track that, but I wonder if maybe we tie our extension to the same threshold, if that's possible.
We could make that contingency. We always have that option.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little fuzzy because obviously the bill hasn't passed yet. So, we want to maintain that flexibility, but I would think that, of the options we're talking about, that one might give us and local businesses, I think, sort of a longer term horizon of assurance, and then gets rid of some of the uncertainty that might be associated with it. The only caveat, of course, is, if 314, loses that language or doesn't, get signed by the governor, then, none of it kind of matters. But I liked the concept enough to bring it forward here tonight during this conversation. So I'm wondering maybe if we could chat about that. And then I have a few other comments for later.
Yeah. Any other comments, questions? Jess?
I'll go ahead. Since being on the committee and working with Zach, it was a great meeting that we had with staff, and just listening to the reports that coming in on how the business wanted to continue and maintain what they have, which is really great. So in my opinion, I absolutely love the idea of having the outdoor dining. Having lived in Europe for years, I love the European feel in a sense. And as we talked also about having the uniformity, I look forward to seeing what that's going to look like as well. And it's only going to increase the beauty of the Old Town area that we have. So I'm excited to see what they're going to come up with as an overall plan of what that's going to look like. So overall, I'm excited to see it and just kind of move forward over the next year. And I think it's going to be a really good addition to our city.
Excellent. Zach, you're leaning forward.
I'll lean in. So I haven't heard one negative comment about the Old Town dining. I mean, it's just been fantastic, from the vibe, the feel, just to obviously being outdoors. We live in a wonderful climate. Obviously being on the subcommittee, supportive, bringing this direction forward to council. So, hey, I'm excited for it. I think that this direction for our city is good. It's good for businesses. It's good for residents and visitors alike. So I'm pretty hopeful it'll be a good thing going forward.
Thanks, Zach. Matt, are you waving at me?
Yeah, just real quick, I know the focus is on restaurants, but we have a few other businesses who took advantage of the space for retail. Luke, when you guys did your survey, did you talk to those businesses as well? Because I think, if we're thinking about expanding this to, sort of a more permanent program, I mean, and Luke, we've talked about this already, is, sort of the consistency, the look, how you'd place the sidewalk so we're not walking through a restaurant, anymore. I mean, there's a few details here and there. But I'm wondering about the other businesses, is there interest? Because if you're going to think about consistency, then this might be a wholesale change to, the entire street through Old Town, not just pockets of that street.
Yeah, we definitely talked to the retail participants, the ones that, so not all retail establishments, but the ones that are participating now, which is actually not that many. And they were supportive. And of course, the recommendation tonight is to extend all of them, so including the retail. And then, getting into the nitty gritty over the next year as we analyze it, kind of taking a look at kind of your question, Matt, is it going to be restaurants and retail, or is it just restaurants, or how's that all going to work? We haven't really fleshed that out in any detail at all, and that's what we were kind of expecting to do over the next year. So to answer your question, yes, they were also interested in a permanent program, just like the restaurants. And so that's why the recommendation is to extend everybody's, and not just the restaurants.
Okay, and then my last question is, if we extend this, do we run into an issue with regard to sort of, because this is in the public right of way that we're doing a lot of this, so do we run into the issue of sort of a gift of public funds at some point?
I think probably. In fact, we just saw an article this week from, I believe it was Manhattan Beach, that's a little bit ahead of us in terms of dealing with the permanent program. And it looks like they have run into that issue where they're having to deal with potentially leasing the space at a close to market rate or market rate. We're way behind them on that, but it is one of the items that we have on our list as challenges to overcome and things that will need to be addressed, along with many other things. So yes, I think that's something we've got our eye on, and will most likely be something that the restaurants and the retail will be facing.
Was that so is that something that we would need to try and figure out and navigate on our own, or is that something that we should be reaching out to our state legislators on and crafting a sort of a statewide solution?
Well, we'll be dealing with it on our own in the absence of legislation, that's for sure. And it certainly couldn't hurt to reach out. I know that there's momentum right now at the state level with ABC, the licenses, so people are focusing on this right now. So it might be a really good time to, talk to our lobbyists and say, hey, listen, in addition to the ABC licenses, there are these other issues that we're all facing the same issue. That the get to public funds doesn't stop at the edge of any city. It's our issue as well. So I think there's good momentum right now. It'd be a good idea.
Well, I think it behooves the state to take care of it. It's going to save them a lot of headaches, and it's going to benefit the cities to increase revenues and sales tax and everything else. So Peter, I saw you leaning forward.
Yeah.
I'm just stretching my back. No, I think we deal with it on our own, and we go to the state. The basic rule is if there's a public purpose, you can spend funds to accomplish that public purpose. And so when we bring back the resolution authorizing the extension, we'll have findings in there saying, this is good for the economic development of the city. This is good to allow businesses to recover from, the pandemic on their own, give them a little extra, help with that. But certainly, having a state law that says cities are authorized to, lease or to give a license to a business to use the street would be really helpful in terms of bolstering our position. But I think we clearly have enough authority to go forward for a year just to see how all this shakes out and exactly what it is that you want to do.
All right. So in the interim, maybe we could get our legislative director to start poking at that for us.
Yeah, that might want to be something that the league looks at too.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem Ron, I've already made a note, and we'll track SB 314, and we'll also have a conversation at the state level about what, if any, efforts are already underway that are related to these ABC extensions and public leases, and see if we can't get some additional information on what is present and what is possible.
Okay, that'd be perfect. I haven't heard anything negative, only positive. Old Town looks fabulous at night. You come down during the day and, you know, people are active every day of the week, patronizing the restaurants. So I don't see anything negative about it, other than that we're going to have to work on our parades and figure out how we're going to do parades. But I think we can work around that. So I'm ready to accept, the direction would be, I believe, to go ahead and extend, but I will accept a motion in a second.
Motion.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay, a motion in a second. And could we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Councilmember Ron?
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart?
Aye.
Councilmember Schwenk?
Aye.
And Mayor Edwards.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Okay, item 14, consider the conduct of in-person public meetings based on new COVID-19 regulations and provide general direction regarding the same at the request of Mayor Edwards and Mayor Pro Tem Ron. And let me preface this by saying we're in flux right now with the state, with OSHA, you know, complying with federal guidelines. And so this could go a lot of different ways. So Randy, you going to help us?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we will certainly try as a staff to give you the relevant information and then request your direction. So this item is actually the last item on the agenda, and it is to consider the conduct of in-person public meetings based on new COVID-19 regulations. So I want to take a moment to kind of center our discussion as to where we are right now in this moment and this time. So currently, the City Council meetings are conducted virtually utilizing Zoom technology. We have a hybrid presence of the City Council and staff in council chambers, in City Hall offices, and even off-site. Our current public comments are received via email and read into the record, consistent with Executive Order N2920. Next slide, please. Now, on May 21st, 2021, there was an announcement by the state that beginning June 15th, 2021, all sectors listed in the blueprint, the activities and the tiers, that they may return to usual operations with limited exceptions for mega events. And those limited exceptions and that announcement was based on the following recommendations. Specifically, that restrictions applying to indoor and outdoor settings with respect to vaccine verification and negative testing, self-attestation was allowed, that it would be required for indoor mega events with 5,000 persons or more, and recommended for outdoor mega events with 10,000 persons or more. There would be no more capacity limitations. There would be no physical distancing restrictions for attendees, customers, and guests. And with respect to masking, the guidance was, or the announcement stated that we would follow the current CDPH guidance for face covering. Expected update was going to be prior to June 15th, 2021, to go ahead and align with the CDC guidelines. Now, one thing I definitely want to point out here is this was an announcement of the revocation of the state's blueprint. We do not have any formal regulation or formal indication yet. It was just an announcement. The next slide, please. Now, at that announcement, one particular caveat was mentioned, and that particular caveat was for Cal OSHA. So in that announcement, it was stated that employers will remain subject to the Cal OSHA COVID-19 prevention emergency temporary standards. And as a reminder, under Cal OSHA, the city of Temecula is an employer. The city council and staff are employees and therefore subject to Cal OSHA regulations.
Randy, when you say the city of Temecula, let's just be very clear. We are talking about the city government of Temecula that operates within City Hall.
Correct.
We're not talking about citywide. It's just City Hall. Okay.
Correct. The organization of the city of Temecula is an employer under Cal OSHA. And thus our city council and staff are employees. Next slide, please. So we have the May 21st announcement by the state, absent something formally that we have received. And then last Thursday, we actually had the June 3rd, 2021 Cal OSHA meeting. And at that meeting, it was a very lengthy meeting. I know several staff members and council members and members of the community were following that particular meeting. The Occupational Safety and Health Standards Board, they went ahead and they adopted revised emergency temporary standards. The revised standards are expected to go into effect no later than June 15th. If they are approved by the Office of Administrative Law in 10 calendar days from the June 3rd date, and then some of the provisions were going to go into effect on July 31st. What the revised ETS, it will phase out physical distancing and make other adjustments to go ahead and align with the state's anticipated June 15th reopening as well. The revised ETS is the first update to those requirements that were adopted by Cal OSHA back in November 2020 and can be further revised with additional changes in vaccine availability and case rates. The board did create a subcommittee to go ahead and work on a proposal to further revise the standards. And then of course that proposal will be considered at a future board meeting. The date is yet to be determined. However, I will at the end of this presentation give you guys another update that happened after all of this came to fruition. Next slide, please. Now, last Thursday, June 3rd, the notable revisions in the new ETS for our application for this discussion included the following. With respect to face coverings indoors, fully vaccinated coworkers without COVID symptoms do not need to wear face coverings in a room where everyone else is fully vaccinated and not showing symptoms. When there is a mixture of vaccinated and unvaccinated persons in a room, all workers will continue to be required to wear a face covering. Now, for outdoors, fully vaccinated workers without symptoms do not need to wear face coverings. Workers who are not fully vaccinated must continue to wear a face covering when they are less than 6 feet away from another person. Okay. Next slide, please. Now, with respect to physical distancing in last Thursday's revised ETS, they stated that when the ETS takes effect, remember expected effect date is by June 15th, employers can go ahead and eliminate the physical distancing and partitions and barriers for the employees that are working indoors and outdoor at mega events if they go ahead and provide respirators such as N95s to unvaccinated employees who can use those as, voluntarily. After July 31st, the physical distancing and barriers are no longer required except during outbreaks, but employers must provide all unvaccinated employees with N95s for voluntary use. Now, before I get into the questions for direction, literally at 3:30 this afternoon, I was advised during the middle of a legislative conference, legislative call with the state that there was going to be a special Cal OSHA board meeting tomorrow in response to a letter that they received from CDPH, the California Department of Public Health, that indicated that CDPH was going to issue guidelines to align with what the CDC guidelines had stated. While those CDPH guidelines are not yet formalized and available to us, they did want to let Cal OSHA board know that this is what we intend to do. Therefore, tomorrow, the Cal OSHA board is having a special emergency meeting to consider that CDPH in the very near future will be adopting guidelines that line with CDC. So that literally happened. We came up with that information just a few hours ago. So based on all this information that we've given you, we are actually asking for direction on these 3 questions. When would the City Council like to begin conducting in-person meetings again for the City Council? That is one question. For the public, that is another question. So these are 2 separate sub-items. What, if any, health and safety protocols would the City Council like to have in place for these meetings for the City Council and then for the public? And of course, when would the council like the boards and commissions to conduct in-person meetings again? Now, before we turn it back over to you, Madam Mayor, I'd like to turn it over to the city attorney for his comments as well. And then we would ask that you facilitate a discussion with your colleagues. Okay.
Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, I think Randy did an excellent job in summarizing where we are to the extent that we can make any definitive decisions and comments as to exactly what the state is or is not going to do. But we think the position of the state is that beginning on June the 15th, the mask requirement as well as the distancing requirements for members of the public will be substantially reduced. And so members of the public attending City Council meetings under what we anticipate to be the state guidelines will not be required to wear a mask. Second, as Randy pointed out, the Cal OSHA board has required employees of both public and private entities to wear masks when they are having their work environment involve members of the public. So that would be city staff members and council members that attend City Council meetings would be required to wear masks. And that then also too, the issue is, what about City Council members? Technically council members are employees of the city, but unlike the line employees, the middle managers, the directors, there's no enforcement mechanism against City Council members. So that City Council members are pretty much sitting as members of the elected body and would have to make your own decisions as to whether or not you would wear a mask. And in looking at that issue, one thing to keep in mind is that the environment is substantially different in June of 2021 than it was in April of 2021 when we last discussed this. The case rates are going down, the hospitalizations are going way down, the vaccination rates are going up. There's not as much concern as there was at that time as to where the COVID pandemic is going and the expectancy of a substantial surge. Additionally, as the council has discussed in the past, the City Council chambers are in a good position to accommodate increased public presence and the staff in that area because it is large. The airflow is pumped in from the outside, which is what has been recommended by numerous health officials. There is a significant distance between the dais and the public, the dais and the staff members. So we're in a position where, as I say, things are significantly better than they were back in April. But the bottom line from the state is we anticipate that the state will not require masks of members of the public or will have a very weak standard for when a mask needs to be worn. But there is still that lingering issue with the Cal OSHA requiring staff members to wear masks. And then, as Randy pointed out, they're having a special meeting tomorrow at which it looks like the Department of Public Health and the governor are trying to get them to match their rules with what the governor anticipates doing. So with that, I too will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, let's start out with questions first. Are there any questions of staff about anything we just heard? If not, then Randy, could we have the questions back up?
Absolutely.
Please.
Can we go ahead and put that slide back up, please, with the questions? Thank you very much.
Okay. I think if we take these one at a time, then staff can get their direction from these, but we can have a discussion about each one of them. And if we can, land on a consensus on each one, I think it's going to shorten this process quite a bit. Otherwise, I think we'll be all over the map in our discussion. So when would the city council like to begin conducting in-person meetings again for city council and public? Well, my vote is like 1.5 years ago. So what's the general consensus?
I'd like to see it at the next meeting after June 15th. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Zach, I saw you. Did you unmute yourself?
Yeah, no, I'm unmuted. So I was going to suggest the 22nd would be our next meeting, correct?
Yes.
I'm completely comfortable with that. Things have changed, like a positivity rates. I mean, everything's already been said. Obviously there's the CDPH and the Cal OSHA issue that we'll see what happens tomorrow. But look, I'm at this point vaccinated. My wife is vaccinated. 2 of my kids have their first shot. Our youngest isn't eligible. So just personally, the people that we're around are getting vaccinated. I'm comfortable starting at the next meeting.
Okay. And Stu?
I concur.
Okay, Jess?
I concur, since according to the Riverside County information here, a data report, that our death rate here in Temecula, as every life is horrible that we lose, is 0.0006%. And so I would like to move forward, as everybody would know, to get us rolling all in here together.
Right. And one point of clarification is, it's true that now this is going to be a separate discussion, but when we open the council chamber, those people will not be required to wear masks. So what we would be looking at eventually is a city council sitting up there wearing masks when 150 people in front of them are not wearing masks. So it's convoluted at best. So, okay, so we're saying the 22nd. Now, staff is going to have to figure out how this all is going to work, and they can do that. So we may have to discuss it and approve what is going to be recommended by staff on the 22nd, and then, actually move into the chamber the next meeting. But we'll get some clarification on that in a minute. So unless, Aaron, you want to weigh in on that one?
No, we're poised. If the council's desire is to reconvene on June 22nd, with whatever protocols in place that you deem appropriate, staff will be ready. And
okay, great.
You mentioned we will be wearing our masks as staff, as was mentioned for public meetings.
Okay, that's great. Okay, Randy, so can we have question number 2?
So actually, Madam Mayor, if I can just get one quick little clarification, I want to make sure we're taking direction correctly. So the City Council will be meeting in person in the council chambers on June 22nd. Did you want the public at that same meeting or at the following meeting?
Well, is there any reason we wouldn't want the public at the same time? And again, we're hedging our bets on what we think OSHA is going to do, and what the state does for alignment. But is there any reason we wouldn't want to open to the public at the same time? I can't think of one.
No, I think if we're going to have an in-person meeting, the public needs to be there as well.
Yeah. Okay, so then, we can go ahead and discuss things like, do you feel that, well, let's go to question number 2 first, because I may be jumping the gun.
Yeah.
Okay, that is question number 2. What, if any, health and safety protocols would the city council like to have in place for these meetings for the city council and the public? So, it's my opinion, I don't think we need to put the plexiglass shields up or anything like that. We're going to be removed from the public. We're not going to be that close to them. We've got the air filtration system. It circulates from the outside. You know, it doesn't just recirculate the same old air. I know that at least 3, I think, of the 5 of us are vaccinated. So that cuts down any risk that anybody, I think, should be concerned about if we're sitting together. I'm so anxious to get everybody back together. So does anybody see any need for any precautions, Matt?
Yeah, so I think it kind of comes down to what happens on the 15th.
Yeah.
But what that discussion looks like tomorrow as well, right? Because, you know, we're hearing a couple of different things, and the state, not surprisingly, is being a little schizophrenic on this. So I think we're a bit challenged here. So, you know, a couple of things I would think. So regardless of what the state does, I think there's a number of measures that just sort of need to be in place until, you know, we're past all of this. And this isn't just, you know, I think it's just from an administrative or engineering control standpoint. You know, there's going to be people who will want to come to City Hall but have different levels of comfort, right? So you know, so list of recommendations. First is, you know, just provide masks to folks, you know, put a stack of them outside, or staff could hand them out. Folks who want them can wear them. It's not going to be a requirement, but if you want to wear them, wear them. Hand sanitizer stations outside the, you know, entrance, just have them positioned there. Folks who want to use it can go ahead and use it. Requested social distancing. I think it would just be a nice thing to, you know, for folks to have. You know, if we fill the room up with people, we fill the room up with people, but, you know, most of our meetings aren't that engaging. And so, you know, having a sign that just says, you know, we'd like to, you know, request that, you know, you social distance where practical, or appropriate, right? And again, if there's going to be no enforcement, just do it if you want to, you know, and if somebody sits next to you and you don't like it, then go move your seat, right? Just, yeah, right. I mean, just, you know, just let folks know that, you know, we'd you know, we're more than happy to encourage that measure. The sanitizing of the podium after speakers when they come up to speak at the podium, I think needs to continue, at least for the interim. And then the only other one is the signage on the doors, right? So on the way in, you know, I think just, you know, and we talk about this a lot with businesses and other folks, is just let folks know what's going on. I think the public would like to know and see that as they're entering City Hall, that the air is actually coming from outside, is not recirculated inside the in the building, right? So I think that's an important thing to recognize. And then of course, just have those signs, you know, if you want a mask, we have masks available. There's, you know, the social distancing request and, you know, and that sort of thing. Now,
kind of a billboard, I mean, a small,
just a little something right at the entrance and say, here's what you've got, you know, and do what you need to. The rest of these items are, you know, in my mind, if the state continues to be more restrictive than CDC or others, then we're going to be in a little bit of a quandary here, right? Now, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and assume that most of the council members probably don't want to wear a mask at the dais. I'm just guessing. I'd be wrong, but, you know, that's my sense. So if that's the case, then if, you know, things become more restrictive than less after June 15th, and the state doesn't do what we think they might do or are alluding to, then I would just add in a few things. I would say, you know, I think the social distancing for the council on the dais, you know, 1 seat between members is
we could do that.
And as far as the plexiglass shields, you know, I would like to see that plexiglass shields are along the dais or at a minimum in front of the podium for the speaker, right? And it's just a distance thing. It's an administrative engineering sort of control for protective measure, you know, do what you want to with it. There's, you know, we can argue about, you know, whether or not it works, but those are part of the, you know, engineering controls that both Cal OSHA and CDC and everybody else recommends. So my sense is if folks don't want to wear a mask, then, at least keep that in place. And again, these are only recommendations if, the state doesn't roll back the guidelines to a much more lower level. And then the only other one that I have is just, inside, I mean, let's be honest, the air just doesn't disappear and you're constantly getting fresh air inside the room, right? There's wonderful filters out there that do all sorts of other, remarkable things in cleaning the air. They're difficult to get. They're in some cases cost prohibitive, but I was speaking to Aaron and Mr. Butler about this earlier, and if it is still restrictive, could we investigate purchasing some of those? There's a lot of different models. There's a lot of different air movement and size of room and everything that goes along with that, and technologies. But again, there's going to be folks who want to come back to City Hall but want to have that comfort level, and that's just one additional feature that I don't think is too unreasonable for the city to put to help folks reach that comfort level and at least demonstrate that we're putting more control measures in place than not. So that's it.
Okay, so we kind of have to, Randy, Aaron, Peter, do we need to settle on specifics? I think we do, for the sake of, having a consensus about what needs to be done for the protocol. So knowing that they could change after tomorrow, or after the 15th. Now, if the standards are decreased tomorrow, then we're still okay. If they're not necessarily increased, but if they're maintained the level we are now, then we may have to look at this again. But I would prefer to take adequate precautions, wear a mask and put those outside if we need to, the hand sanitizer, cleaning the podium. If you want to look at the air filters, that it wouldn't hurt us even under normal circumstances to have those. So that's not something that we'll have to, get rid of later for any reason. I'm still a little ambivalent about the plexiglass, but if I like what you said, Matt, about putting it around the podium rather than all the way across in front of the council, which I think would be cost very, very costly. And, we're not going to do it tomorrow. So certainly if things change tomorrow, then we can revise, or we can make a motion or make plans contingent upon what happens tomorrow. But I definitely think we could do the signage. And also we want to say if anybody has symptoms, to please avoid council meeting. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer, but do the masks and the hand sanitizer, social distancing, everything that you said. And then for inside, I'm happy with council sitting together and knowing that we can always, social distance if we need to later on, depending on what happens tomorrow and the 15th. And I'm okay with plexiglass around the podium. Stu.
I'm in agreement with everything Matt said, except the plexiglass, because to me, when I had to wear my shield because I couldn't wear a mask, I was getting dogged by people that doesn't work, that doesn't do anything. And it's like, so what's the plexiglass going to do? I mean, it's the exact same thing as a shield, only massive.
Yeah.
And so,
right.
so it's like, why spend that money? And I understand to make them feel more comfortable, perhaps, but at the same token, I was wearing one to feel comfortable, and it didn't matter to anybody. I was still going to kill them. And so it's like, to me, that's a point of disingenuousness as far as I'm concerned. To me, it's part of a dog and pony show. It really, but I'm in total agreement. If you want to wear a mask, by all means, wear one. If you want to hand sanitize, by all means, hand sanitize. So all those are very practical things that we can do. But when it comes to plexiglass, it's pointless, and we all know it. So why go through that? Why spend the money? That's my personal opinion.
That was
everything
a
else I'm okay
concession
with.
for me. You know, if we don't have it, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah.
Jess?
Well, again, I'm in agreement with everything that Matt said, same thing, except for the plexiglass, because when I was down here, I mean, we're over 15 feet.
Yeah.
And then another 5 feet from where somebody's sitting behind them. I mean, it's just something we'd put up and then eventually take down. So I just don't really seem that it's really that important. If somebody feels uncomfortable, they could put a mask on. There's other protocols that people who feel uncomfortable can definitely take if they feel uncomfortable in that sense. So that's it.
Yeah. Zach?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. And Matt, I appreciate your insight as always. One thing I'd like to sort of add, and I'm in agreement with what everyone said, and the plexiglass for me, I could do without it, to be honest with you. I would ask that we, because we want to try to be inclusive, we want to try to be mindful of everyone. And there will be people that will want to come to City Hall, but maybe they're not comfortable. They still might wear a mask, but they might not want to sit right next to someone. I do think there's some value in giving a physically distanced section, if you will, right? Give people a little bit of space. This has been contentious, right? The last 15 months has been extremely contentious. So if we can just give people a little bit of, hey, if you want to sit in this row, someone's not going to sit directly across you. Someone's not going to walk across you to get through there. We've all walked through there and it's very tight. So again, it's just to be mindful of everyone. But all in all, I'm in agreement with what everyone says so far.
I think that's reasonable, and I think it can be done. You know, we can rope off a section and put a sign up saying, and we're not going to have huge crowds at meetings. Typically, we don't. That would take up all the space and not allow for distancing. So when we can, I think we can.
Mayor Edwards?
Yes.
One of the things that Aaron Adams had spoken about before too, and I think when we were originally looking at moving forward previously, Aaron Adams, if you can just jump in. I know you guys had also said for opening up the conference center if people don't feel comfortable. So that's another option, that if for some reason there is an individual who wants to be able to speak here in front of the council and wants to stay here, they still have the option to be able to go into the conference center to watch the rest of the video. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, that is correct. That's always an option available to us, to sort of have that overflow space across the hall where we can simulcast the meeting and pipe it in there, and folks know. But to be completely honest, you know, in non-COVID times, it was rare that we would fill the council chambers. So yeah, I don't think we need to plan for, you know, fill in every seat, because I just don't see that occurring. But in the event that did, there is plenty of seats across the foyer that we can make available.
And we can accommodate speakers just like we did for the Ready Commission. You know, if they want to stay in the conference center, they know they're coming, and so then they can come in and speak and then go back. Zach?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing. So thanks for acknowledging me. We also just saw the high school students graduate. So we've got like 3 months before we're going to get that bulk of students back in there. So, you know, to your point, you know, Aaron, we're not going to see a massive crowd. I just want us to be mindful. If someone wants to sit by themselves, give them that opportunity so they can watch the meeting.
Matt, did you wave at me?
I did.
Okay.
Just two things. Look, like I said, I'm not going to die on the hill of plexiglass. So, you know, I just put that one out there, so it's cool. But the seating for social distancing, specific for social distancing, Peter, do you know, I haven't heard of this before in any businesses. Do you foresee any potential issues with that at all from a access or ADA or discrimination sort of perspective?
No, I think Councilmember Schwank made a good point. Maybe it's a social distancing section.
Yeah.
You know, so somebody's given the option. You know, if you're not comfortable sitting, you know, immediately next to somebody in auditorium seating, you can go to, you know, the physical distance sectioning. So you're not directing people to go there. You're not mandating they go there, but you're giving it to them as an option. And I think anytime you give them an option, you're compliant with all of the privacy and ADA issues.
So it's voluntary, and it's there for their convenience. Okay.
Okay.
So are we settled on that then? So what I have is signage outside, masks and hand sanitizer, and perhaps a section where people have the opportunity to social distance if they need to, and cleaning the podium. Did I miss anything?
Filters,
Oh, filters, if you, yes,
Signage.
staffing, look into that.
filters and signage outside.
Yeah, okay.
And the sort of requested, social distancing if possible.
Oh, yeah, on the, on the sign. Okay, so staff's got that. Can we go on to number 3?
So the last question is, when would the city council like the boards and commissions to conduct their in-person meetings again? The one piece of information we want to share with you on this is that some of the meetings are already scheduled for this month. And some of those agendas are already out. So for example, the Ready Commission is meeting, their monthly meeting is this Thursday, and that agenda has already been posted. So if you were to say at the next meeting, that's not going to happen for those
Right.
that are already publicly noticed. So I just want to
Okay.
put that out there with you.
Okay, so, that can be, we can qualify that if that's what we want. So my opinion is, as soon as possible for the city council, which would be the 22nd. So Zach?
Yeah, so I was just going to suggest their first meeting after the 22nd, right? Like, so we've met in public, and then their next meeting, whenever that falls on, would be in public as well in the chambers.
Right. I think so. Anybody else?
I'm just going to bring up the same thing I brought up the last time we talked about that, which is, I don't know why we wouldn't just leave it up to them to make that decision themselves, right? So no sooner than, the first meeting after the 22nd, but, if you've got a board or a commission that is made up of, certain members who still have a comfort or a discomfort level with this, why wouldn't we just let them make that choice themselves?
So we can leave the virtual option open. So that's going to require different noticing. Is that, so logistics wise, how would that work? Peter, Randy?
Yeah, so one of the reasons we are asking for consistency across city council meetings and boards and commission meetings is because of the ability of the public to be able to actively engage with the council and the board in the same way. So we don't necessarily want the public to be able to, address, have the ability to come in and talk to the city council in person, but then not have the ability to come and address the planning commission in person.
Or only have one planning commissioner in the building.
Yeah. So, and then just for public outreach, understanding, communication, it's that consistency is helpful for our messaging and the public's understanding across the board. The other piece of this is each of the boards and commissions. It would be somewhat challenging for the boards and commissions for one commission to decide they're going to remain in virtual,
Yeah.
for another commission to decide that they're going to be in person. And so there's inconsistency there as well. So,
but they can always have the option of social distancing if they want. The commission meetings are attended even less than a typical council meeting. And so, and there's a lot less staff there. So the dais is not full. So they could socially distance fairly easily.
Absolutely.
And they always have the option of wearing a mask if they want to, right? Stu?
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest is for them to do a social distance, they could put, 10 feet between each one.
Almost.
Yeah. And
Almost.
so, and maybe one person shows up for most of those, if that. So I think to pull that off would be not an issue whatsoever. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we just make sure we give them that flexibility to define those parameters if they want to include that? Yeah, that's all I'm saying, right?
Social distancing or not, social distancing.
There's a different
or not.
comfort level within the board or commission that they're able to, implement something a little bit different.
And then masks, they have the option of wearing masks too. Okay.
Yep.
Zach, you look like you're about to raise your hand. You're making me anticipate now.
Yeah, you're getting solid, Madam Mayor.
Oh, body language thing.
And then we're going to go right back into public meetings in person. So throw all that away.
Yeah,
so
right.
with respect to that, though, for each commission, they would essentially have to have a meeting and do what we're doing to build consensus around moving forward, right? They would have to have a publicly noticed meeting to discuss the return to council or return to the chambers. Is that a true statement?
What our recommendation would be is, and this is why, is that we would, what we can do is we can do a reach out to all of the boards and commission and say, hey, the city council decided this is how they're going to go ahead and conduct their meetings, and have given direction to go ahead and implement the same measures for the first meeting after June 22nd. And then if you have any questions or concerns, please let us know. And we can kind of just measure, gauge if there's any interest. I will tell you from having spoken with several board and commission members, they also are very eager.
Right.
The Ready Commission specifically, they have not met in person.
That's right.
So there's a lot of folks that, and I hear Community Services Commission members as well. They want to be able to. There's our commission. But we will absolutely accommodate any board or any commissioner that is requesting social distancing or masking or any of those kinds of things. Always giving them that flexibility.
They'd have the option of sitting in any seat in the chamber at that point, pretty much.
We just want to be mindful of that, right? Like, you know, we're sort of making the call for them, but at the end of the day, we want them to also be comfortable. So make sure that we're just mindful of that.
And you know what, we would make that call one way or the other. Even if we weren't doing it now, we'd have to do it at some point. And I can tell you that there probably are some people who publicly are going to wear masks maybe forever. I mean, it's a common practice in parts of Europe and Asia. So, and they might. So I think we just need to go ahead and establish the protocol and then give them the flexibility to, you know, sit in the audience or sit farther away or wear a mask or whatever. And then, yeah, Zach.
Yeah, to that point, masks aren't going away. You know, as
right.
You know, for vice chair for RTA, we're still having to wear masks on transit, right? So they're not going to go away. So again, it's just about being mindful of everybody and their personal preferences.
Right. Okay. Anything else? So staff, do you have enough to take direction? And look how quickly that went.
Yes. So I am just going to reiterate this once and then ask for a motion. And if I have missed anything, council members, Mr. City Manager, or Mr. City Attorney, please let us know. So as to question number one, when would the City Council like to begin conducting in-person meetings again? For both the City Council and the public, we will begin June 22nd. With respect to health and safety protocols, we will go ahead and make sure that we have masks available, hand sanitizer available, social distancing section in the seating. We will have the appropriate signage, working with our fabulous risk team and our HR team. We will sanitize the speaker sanitation or the speaker podium. We will make sure that it is well known that we are circulating air from the outside. If possible, we will acquire additional filters. And then we will utilize the conference center as needed. With respect to boards and commissions, we will advise that to the extent possible, they will begin meeting in person as well at their first meeting after June 22nd. And we will provide flexibility to make sure that everyone feels safe and secure in attending those meetings. So that is what I have.
I think that's everything. Anybody? Are we sure? Okay, in that case, let's quickly. I see Greg Butler. Greg Butler's waving at me.
I had one jot noted down just to make sure, so we appropriately plan for seating at the dais. Are the council going to be seated spaced apart by a chair or all sitting?
No,
together?
I say no. No. No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have, just to reiterate, I have no social distancing with City Council at the dais and no plexiglasses as well. So
right.
I think we're clear on that.
So I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion. I don't know who that was, but whoever.
That was me.
I got you motion.
That was me. Thank you.
Okay, Stu, I saw your hand too, Stu. So, all right. So could we have the roll call?
Yes, Councilmember Alexander,
Aye.
Councilmember Ron,
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwenk,
Aye.
and Mayor Edwards.
All right. Good job. Okay, so moving on to Mr. City Manager, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, just two quick things. First, I just want to thank the city council for the support. You know, tonight you approved an amazing capital budget, an amazing operating budget that has so much to for our community built into that in the next 5 years and the next 12 months, in fact. So just very grateful, feel blessed, privileged that we're able to get that through and to have your support along the way. With Greg Butler retiring next month, it's my privilege to publicly announce the promotion of our new assistant city manager will be Kevin Hawkins, as well as a reorg of the, yes, with Luke Watson becoming the deputy city manager, leading responsibilities over community development. So these two gentlemen are poised to help us continue next generation leadership. The city of Temecula is in good hands, and thank the council for your support there, and welcome Mr. Hawkins and Mr. Watson to their new roles. So thank you.
Excellent decision, Mr. City Manager. And if Mr. Butler still sees the need to leave, you know, this is the bet. This is a, you know, these are great choices. So I see yes, so long. All right, then, Peter, anything?
I have no report tonight.
All right, then, I will say this meeting is adjourned to the meeting of the 22nd of June, and hopefully we'll all be together finally again. Thank you.
Take care.